We're going to call this meeting to order. Monday, June 20th, City Council meeting. Robert Gamboa, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. City Clerk, if we can have a roll call.
Councilmember D'Amico is on his way.
On his way.
Councilmember Duran.
Here.
Councilmember Horvath.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Heilman.
Here.
Mayor Meister.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. There was no closed session, so no report to give. Approval of the agenda. I have some suggestions. I'd like to ask that we pull item 2LL, which is approval of the reclassification of 6 positions. And I'd also like to move it to be heard either before or simultaneously with item 5B, which is about the budget. And, I'm sorry, to move item 5B as well to before item 4A, which is the budget. And item 5B, which was 2MM, is the MOU, let me find it. Approval of Memorandum of Understanding with the West Hollywood Managers Association. Yeah, that was 2MM, but it became 5B. Okay. So I'm asking that we move item 5B, which was 2MM, and pull 2LL and do them all around the same time that we do item 4A, which is the budget. Is everyone okay with that? Does anybody else? And then also we have an urgency item, a resolution in opposition to AB 2788, wireless telecommunications facilities. If we can move that onto consent. Any objection?
No.
And does anybody have any other changes?
I'd like to ask that we table item 6A.
Is that the tobacco?
Yes, that's the retailer license, tobacco retailer license ordinance.
Yes,
Okay.
agreed.
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 2PP.
2PP, which is,
Enjoy your morning. It's your item.
oh, thank you. Okay, we'll pull item 2PP, and that'll go on to excluded consent. Okay. Anything else?
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Okay,
Second.
And just for the record, the urgency item will now be item 2WW on the consent calendar.
okay.
We don't seem to have the power on our screens to move anything,
Okay, give me 1 minute.
all right?
Yvonne is working on it, Jean.
Okay, can you try now?
Move the agenda as amended.
Okay. All right, we have an agenda approved. Adjournment motions. We all have adjournment motions tonight, so we would like to read the names of the 49 people who were killed in Orlando last Sunday, and I can start. Edward Sotomayor, Jr., 34 years old. Stanley Almodovar III, 23. Luis Omar Acacio Capo, 20. Juan Ramon Guerrero, 22. Eric Ivan Ortiz Rivera, 36. Peter O. Gonzalez Cruz, 22. Luis S. Vilma, 22. Kimberly Morris, 37. Eddie Jamoldre Justice, 30. Darrell Roman Burt II, 29.
Dianca Deidre Drayton, 32. Enrique L. Rios Jr., 25. Christopher Andrew Leononen, 32. Angel Candelario Padro, 28. Frank Hernandez, 27. Paul Terrell Henry, 41. Antonio Devon Brown, 29. Miguel Angel Honorato, 30. Javier Jorge Reyes, 40. Joel Rayon Paniagua, 32.
Jason Benjamin Josephat, 19. Corey James Connell, 21. Juan Rivera Velasquez, 37. Luis Daniel Conde, 39. Shane Evan Tomlinson, 33. Juan Chavez Martinez, 25. Gerald Arthur Wright, 31. Leroy Valentin Fernandez, 25. Tevin Eugene Crosby, 25. Jonathan Antonio Camé Vega, 24. Jean Carlos Nives Rodriguez, 27. Rodolfo Ayala, 33. Brenda Lee Marquez McCool, 49. Yilmray Rodriguez Sullivan, 24. Alejandro Barrios Martinez, 21. Anthony Luis Laurendazlisla, 25. Jean Carlos Mendez Perez, 35. Frankie Jimmy de Jesus Velasquez, 50. Amanda Alviar, 25. Martin Benitez Torres, 33.
Luis Daniel Wilson Leon, 37. Mercedes Marisol Flores, 26. Xavier Emmanuel Serrano Rosado, 35. Gilberto Ramon Silva Menendez, 25. Simon Adrian Carrillo Fernandez, 31. Oscar A. Aracena Montero, 26. Christopher Joseph Sanfilis, 24. Akira Monet Murray, 18. Geraldo A. Ortiz Jimenez, 25.
We will adjourn in their memory. Are there any other adjournment motions tonight?
Yes,
Pro Tem
Mayor.
Hammond?
I would request that we adjourn in memory of Teresa Saldana. Teresa was an actress who lived in West Hollywood many years ago. She was attacked by a stalker. Her advocacy led to many of the anti-stalking laws that we have in California. She resided in California. She was able to survive her attack and continue her career as an actress. She died recently at the age of 61. I'd also request that we adjourn in memory of Joe Cox. Joe was a member of Parliament in England, and she was killed recently by a disturbed individual who was inspired in part by hate speech coming from the United States.
Thank you. Any other adjournment motions? If not, we now have a presentation. Councilmember Horvath.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have a special presentation for our filmmaker Mike Masalim. Mike created Breaking Fast, a short film written and directed by Mike, which was shot entirely in West Hollywood. The film tells a unique story through the eyes of Mo, a practicing Muslim who during the month of Ramadan meets Cal, the quintessential all-American, and follows them as they spend the evening strolling the streets of West Hollywood together, navigating life, love, loss, and connection. He's a Muslim film writer and director, rarely identified with Muslim characters portrayed in mainstream cinema, and decided to create a character and a story that spoke to real-life experiences living in West Hollywood. This film has been screened at film festivals throughout the world, including at Cannes, the Toronto LGBT Film Festival, the Boston LGBT Film Festival, the Newport Beach Film Festival, the Arab Film Festival, and the Norwegian Film Festival. And in light of recent events, I think it's very important that we're telling stories that bridge communities and bring people together and focus on celebrating our diversity. So I'd like to ask Mike to come forward to receive this proclamation from the city.
I can't begin to thank the city of West Hollywood enough, especially Eddie Robinson, who really was instrumental in making this film made. We thank him as well. I'd like to acknowledge all of the cast and crew who are here today, who received this. So I received this on their behalf as well, and we thank you so much. And I'm not really one to be at a loss for words, but hearing those 49 names read certainly should render anyone speechless. But I am brought a little comfort knowing that this work and the work that hopefully we all continue to do will eradicate hate in this world, will bridge communities, as you said, Ms. Horvath, and continue to fight on the side of good. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. We now have public comment. The City Council values your comments. However, pursuant to the Brown Act, Council cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Please take note that items 2LL, which again, if I can find it, 2LL, is approval of the reclassification of 6 positions, and 2MM, which became 5B, approval of memorandum of understanding with the West Hollywood Managers Association, are going to be discussed when we discuss the budget, which is item 4A. So if you've turned in slips to speak for consent on those items and can wait until we discuss item 4A and those items, that would be appreciated. Okay. We'll start with Tom DeMille, followed by Jean Dobrin.
Tom DeMille, West Hollywood. You know, I only have 2 minutes, so let's get to business here. We have approximately 33 senators in the United States that are up for re-election. In the coming weeks, I'm going to supply you with the names of the senators that did not vote for the gun control bills today. During the election period, we're going to be having a phone bank at 980 Palm Avenue. I invite the people that want to get rid of these senators to come up and start calling on their person that's running against them on their behalf. Hopefully it'll be a Democrat. You know, watching the Senate today, it was so pitiful. Do they really represent us? Do they really represent America? They really don't. They really don't. They represent the NRA. They represent the big corporations. When are we going to start demanding that our senators and our elected officials represent us? Us. We elect them. We cast their vote for them, and we expect them to vote the way we want them to vote. And they're not voting the way we want them to vote. It was abysmal today that they couldn't pass one single bill for checks on 3-day checks or any of those things. It's just, it makes me sick to my stomach that they're not defending us as Americans. It makes me sick to my stomach that they're defending the corporations but not defending the common man, the working man, the person that needs to be defended. I just have to say that in the city of Boston, we require a cop on every single place that has over 200 people in a liquor license. We require that in the city of West Hollywood. And this would never happen in the city of West Hollywood. And it should not happen in the city, it would never happen in the city of Boston, but it should not happen in the city of West Hollywood either. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Jean Dobrin, to be followed by David Reed.
I am Jean Dobrin, resident of West Hollywood for approximately 39 years. I am speaking on 2LL. Ordinarily, to get an alcohol license in this city, you have to obtain a conditional use permit from the city. And once you gain that, you can present it to the Alcohol Beverage Commission, and they will grant a license. However, over the weekend, a place called Yogurt Shop at 8803 Santa Monica Boulevard obtained a temporary license and advertised all over the place with disgusting and demeaning signs saying, strong drinks, cheap prices, and then more of them all over the city. I talked to Jeff Albo, head of code compliance, about these signs, and he doesn't think that they're illegal. I found out that these people were raising donations for a 50c3 federal deal, which gives them the right to raise money for animals who are old and sick and whatever. That is wonderful. But there was no mention anywhere of the fact that this got this alcohol license for the weekend without any notice of it, with these disgusting signs. I should have brought pictures of them. They're embarrassing. Anyhow, I am going to write to this federal 5013C company, and I'm going to ask them how much money did they get. I would like to know that. And 2L is going to say that nobody get this kind of temporary license now for more than 2 times a year. But the truth of the matter is they shouldn't be getting a license.
Thank you, Jean. David Reed. David Reed, to be followed by Amanda Hyde.
Whoops. Thank you, Your Honor. Regarding item 2VV, the city is to be applauded for reaching out to the survivors and families of the massacre in Orlando. The city should consider reaching out to all LGBT people on the planet and rename this very park that we are in right now, West Hollywood Pride Park. Pride should be added as a tribute not only to the 49 LGBT family and friends killed in O-Town, but to the 14 transgender murder victims alone this year in the United States, and the untold number of young gays, many teenagers thrown from buildings or stoned to death in dirt world nations in the Mideast. All of them will be honored proudly, publicly incorporating Pride into this park's name. By adding Pride to the official name, every time someone maps this area on the internet, they will see the word Pride right there with West Hollywood and Park. Pride has become shorthand for LGBT, as has West Hollywood. Double whammy. I know the council's too young to remember, but in 1963, on Christmas Eve 1963, New York's Idlewild Airport was renamed for John F. Kennedy. JFK, 33 days after he was assassinated, they changed the name of one of the world's largest airports. How's that for branding? Worldwide, there were plazas, highways, and squares named for Kennedy, seemingly overnight. The tipping point here is Orlando, and it could likely have the same effect as well. Seed of that idea is planted here tonight, making the name change official. Maybe on the 28th of the Stonewall, June 28th is the anniversary of Stonewall. You don't need a big sign, you just need a banner. You need to make the name official. Tell all the murder and hate crime victims of the world, the welcome mat is out. For those who paid the price with their lives, West Hollywood Pride Park. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Amanda Hyde, to be followed by Steve Martin.
Hello, Council. My voice is gross because the weather is gross. I was just coming to thank you so much for 2RR. We did the Cannabis Education Forum last year, and it was a huge success. I was told by people in our community and activists and advocates from wherever that it was one of the best events they'd ever attended, and they were so impressed that our city sponsored something like that when so many other cities are, turning a blind eye and continuing stigma, that we are embracing conversations and we're giving a platform and a place where people can learn. And I had several people that came last year that got cancer treatment from one of the speakers there and that are doing fantastic. So we actually helped save lives. And I'm really excited for this year's event because there's going to be measures on the ballots coming up. So discussion right now and education are so important. So thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Steve Martin, to be followed by David Warren.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood. Thank you. I just really appreciate the little candles and the commemoration tonight. I think the council's being very sensitive. I appreciate 2VV. I want to second what David Reed was saying. I was very impressed with the speech that Lauren Meister gave right at the start of the parade. It was very heartfelt, and I just think that it spoke to the way people felt on that morning, because people were just in such shock and very torn about both being at a parade and being in the shadow of the tragedy. And I just think that there's more we can do, and I know we will do. But on a lighter note, I also want to thank the council for pushing to have the free Friday night at CSW, because it was really fun, and there was a great atmosphere there. Maybe it was because it was free. There were tons of young people there. It was hard not to feel their energy and appreciate it. I mean, a lot of boys on budgets, girls on budgets, or maybe people like me, seniors on budgets. But it really was a good event, and it really showed that we could bring a diverse group of people together, have fun, not necessarily charge. I know it's not practical to do that maybe all 3 days, but I just think that was a really good, positive thing that happened and kind of lightened things up. And as we look forward, you guys really need to calendar how we deal with CSW in the coming months, because we're on a very tight schedule for next year, and we've got a very small park, and we had a lot of conflict this year, and there's going to be more competition with a smaller venue. So I think CSW and the community at large, the larger community of LA, we're going to need to push and bring people together. But thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Steve. David Warren, to be followed by Larry Block.
David Warren, a resident of West Hollywood and current chairman of the Transportation Commission. I want to talk about 2L, which was the update on crosswalk safety. And basically, I just wanted to say thank you to begin with. Thank you to the council. Thank you to the city manager and the city staff for all of the safety improvements that have been made in the crosswalks, the publicity campaigns, et cetera. If you look at the numbers, the number of pedestrian collisions is down, depending on how you do the math, 38%, something like that, which I think is pretty huge. And again, depending on what assumptions you make, that may be 10 people, that may be 25 people. It's a lot of people who have not gotten hit by cars thanks to these improvements. So thank you very much. And now I'll leave my chairman role and talk a little bit about the in-street signs that were part of that. I'm biased because I was an early fan of those signs ever since I saw them visiting my parents back in 2013. The numbers, as far as I can see, show that those have been incredibly effective. The number of collisions in those intersections have dropped by something like 75%. And now that's a smaller piece of the pie, but that's still an incredible effect. And I know that they've been a maintenance nightmare. I know a lot of drivers don't appreciate them. So I appreciate everybody's patience with them, but I think that for me, they're not just a short-term measure. In some cases, we'll be replacing them with traffic signals, but I think we need to keep these available in our toolbox in the long term for some crosswalks where we don't have other solutions. And I also view them a little bit as sort of the canary in the coal mine. And if there's a sign that keeps getting hit again and again and again, it makes me think, gee, maybe we should be looking at that spot on that street to figure out why that's happening and what is that telling us about driver behavior and the geometry of the street and such. So again, thank you, and thank you for your patience with the in-street signs.
Thank you, David. Larry Block, to be followed by Robert Gamboa.
Larry Block, West Hollywood. First on item 2F, the temporary licenses. I don't know why we have to lower them. No one enforces them. It's standing in front of my shop. You see 5 vendors with food selling the hot dogs, competing with the pizza places and the hamburger places. You see carts going up and down the street with Pride merchandise competing with shops that sell it. So there's no enforcement, so why lower licenses? It'd be nice to have enforcement. On 2L, on the crosswalk updates, and it's good to note that those pedestrian safety zones are working. It's not down 38%, it's down 100%. There's been 0 deaths since they went up. But Clinton Bounds is dead 2 years now. It's still 2 years. We're still waiting for that intersection and those lights and those things that were already on the agenda, approved 3 years ago to go up. So a lot of red tape. That gets to something else. Too much red tape. On item 2T, on the Sin Blaze marketing, $47,000 up to $200,000. Could that number go up to $100,000? It seems like an awful lot of discretionary money just being thrown out there, and maybe we need to evaluate if that works. And on 2V, the public safety, we almost could have got blown up this past weekend. I don't see any emergency agenda items for more security in the Boys Town area and more cops on the beat. You still can't get a cop to the store when you need them. I don't want to go through it, we have no time. But the point is, we need additional security in the Boys Town area because that's where the most people go. We can't spread the cops out around the city when all the people coming into town are located near Boys Town. So I don't really, it's been extra busy this month, and I think we could do more aggressive community surveillance cameras back on the agenda, and it's time to move forward to make sure we lock down West Hollywood as never being able to have that terrorist attack.
Thank you, Larry. Robert Gamboa, followed by Joey Sapone.
Good evening, Mayor and Madam Mayor and City Council. Robert Gamboa here, co-chair of the Lesbian and Gay Advisory Board. I first wanted to thank you for Sizzle, co-sponsoring Sizzle, and I wasn't able to be there Friday and Saturday because of the AIDS life cycle, but I understand from the people that went, it was a huge success. The number of people was astounding, and of course, Sunday's numbers were a little bit less because of what was happening, but I've had a lot of people who are very appreciative and expressed a great deal of gratitude for that, so thank you. I also went to the budget meeting on Saturday, and I appreciate the continued support for alcohol and drug-free events that are included in the special events budget. Most notably Boom and Sizzle. So I'm glad those are still in consideration, and I'm happy to work on any other alcohol and drug-free programming that you would like to consider. I also want to thank West Hollywood and Christopher Street West and the community's response to Orlando and in the potential threat that happened down the street. We are a resilient community, and I appreciate that we stayed open for business. I appreciate that we will not cower in fear, and we mourn together, and we will unite together stronger. In light of that, I want to invite everyone to the next Lesbian and Gay Advisory Board meeting, which is July 14th at City Hall at 7 p.m. We'll be discussing 2 items. One of those is sort of a complement to item 2VV. We're going to be discussing, as the LGAB, safety measures and maybe some self-defense protocols so we can start educating the community and how to be better prepared as a community, as well as discussing ways to memorialize the Orlando victims and all LGBT victims of hate and bullying, as David Reed mentioned. And then finally, I'd like to invite everyone to the Rainbow Key Awards, which will be right here on Wednesday. We start a reception at 6 p.m., and then the program begins at 7 p.m., where we will honor some amazing individuals and organizations here that has supported the LGBT community in West Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Joey Sapone, followed by John Allendorfer.
Hello. My name is Joey Sapone. I have a partnership with Billboard, The Hollywood Reporter, and Gibson for a live music series. I work with a lot of different celebrity artists, a lot of the winners and favorites from American Idol and The Voice. And I'm interested in doing a one-off benefit concert called Love for Orlando in West Hollywood Park sometime soon in the next 3 or 4 weeks. I'd engage SIS Security. They oversee security for the Academy Awards for Public Safety. We work with the Sheriff's Department, I request, I've never done this before, but I would imagine, I'd need an expedited permit and some sort of fee waiver to produce the tribute concert for our community. It makes the most sense to do it here in West Hollywood. If it was going to be in any city, I think it'll benefit the city in a lot of ways. There's a lot of international exposure, media attention. It'll show our community we stand strong with Orlando, and it'll give the members of our community a safe place to mourn and pay tribute to the 49 lives lost.
Thank you, Joey. Cleo Smith from our Special Events Department is in the back. Maybe you can raise your hand and Joey can come talk to you. Thank you. John Allendorfer, followed by Jeff Consoletti.
Good evening. I'm John Allendorfer, a resident of the city of West Hollywood. In the aftermath of the Orlando tragedy, I asked, how does one deal with the grief and anger that we all feel? I was encouraged last Monday when Mayor Meister spoke at the rally at Mickey's, commemorating the 49 victims. You encouraged us to phone and write to our representatives and senators about sane gun policy. I encourage all citizens of West Hollywood to go beyond that. Call and write to relatives and friends in 5 key electoral college states: Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, Nevada, and Colorado, where the election will be decided. Call up your relatives, call up your friends, persuade them, argue with them, but push them to do a progressive Democratic platform and keep a liberal Supreme Court. I also would encourage the LGBT community to take up the fight for the assault weapon ban and show America how in the past strong organization skills and leadership are winning the battle on AIDS, how LGBT enlisted servicemen and women to stand up and do away with the don't ask, don't tell, how we won same-sex marriage, and now to help same-sex marriage become the law of the land, and now we can help beat that assault weapon ban. You know, today, as Tom said, the Senate voted, and all 4 amendments got defeated, including the one on gun sales to suspected terrorists on the no-fly list. 2 interesting facts. Even Supreme Court Justice Scalia said there should be conditions on the Second Amendment. A poll today from Mammoth University showed 52% of Americans favor a ban on assault weapons. Let's go with the saying, no fly, no buy. No fly, no buy. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Jeff Consoletti, to be followed by James DeMena.
Good evening, council members. I'm Jeff Consoletti. I'm the producer of Los Angeles Pride here in West Hollywood. I wanted to begin by thanking the community, thanking yourselves and the city for hosting another successful LA Pride event here in West Hollywood. Despite, many circumstances over the course of the weekend, I think it was really great to see a community come together and support one another because of reasons why Pride events exist. Unfortunately, it shouldn't take such tragedy to remind us all of those events, but it was really heartwarming to see the community connect to one another. I want to thank Christopher Street West. They've been a loyal client of mine for many years. We embark on a journey together to try and produce the best event we possibly can for this community, for worldwide recognition. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of volunteer hours on their part. I am not a volunteer, and it takes a lot of staff hours on our part. So there are many, many months of collaboration that go into producing a world-class event, which indeed this LA Pride event is. I want to also recognize the extraordinary efforts of West Hollywood City staff, namely Cleo Smith and her special events team. It's not easy to navigate West Hollywood City Hall at times, and the special events group really does make that process that much more collaborative. I especially want to recognize Megan Reith, who really went above and beyond to be a partner to me this season. As an event producer, like I've said, there's a lot of collaboration and planning that goes into events, and public safety is one of those. And Captain Perez, Lieutenant Smith, Kristen Cook, and our public safety team needs to be recognized for their hard work and what went on Parade Sunday. And my buzzer's going to ring, but lastly, just a call to action to the community. My information's out there. Christopher Street West information is out there. We begin LA Pride planning
Thank you, Jeff.
now, so we look forward to seeing you at future meetings.
Thank you, Jeff. James DeMena, followed by Suzanne Vergey, or Vergey.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Semena, and I wrote this letter this morning to the council, and I just wanted to read it so it'll be part of the public record. So,
Speak right into the mic, please.
oh, did you hear what I said? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So it has come to my attention from review of previous reports that the city manager is asking for extremely large salary increases, promotions, and creation of new jobs for current employees. This needs to be discussed at a later meeting after the budget has been approved. There has been insufficient disclosure of the budget to WeHo citizens. It is inappropriate and ethically questionable to approve the city manager's request before these numerous and highly expensive personal actions as part of the budget approval. This meeting should only be concerned with passing the budget. One must be knowledgeable of the budget and the amount before salary increases can be made. And since WeHo residents are paying these salaries, we should be made aware of why these individuals are receiving money increases and if these increases are appropriate. We have not been given the opportunity to do so. The public meetings of a couple of weeks ago were poorly noticed, and the information given out was too general to discover the details. The result was that there was no real public input to the budget process. So please, this evening, let's take out all the personal actions from items 2LL, 4A, and 5B and focus only on passing the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Suzanne Vergey, followed by Michael Morton.
Thank you. My name is Suzanne Verge. I'm president of the Los Angeles chapter of the Brady Campaign. I'm also here with our San Fernando Valley chapter, and we stand here in solidarity. And anything we can do to help prevent gun violence, especially to the LGBTQ community, we're here. As people have spoken, there's going to be a concert across America to end gun violence on September 25th. We're planning something for Los Angeles. I think it would be wonderful if West Hollywood did something or partnered with us, but we're here in solidarity and here to help. So thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Michael Morton, followed by Kathy Blavis.
I'm here today to inquire as to what the crime rate has been in the city for the last 3 years, because I'm seeing a surge of it. I live off of Santa Monica Boulevard and Gardner. I'm seeing increased narcotics transactions in broad daylight. Officers aren't able to come because they have limited capacity thanks to the new laws and also limited manpower. I also see that the burglary rate's going up, and half these individuals are the same people I see all the way over to the Ralphs on Fountain and La Brea, all the way over to Fairfax, possibly further this way. They travel in packs, and from my understanding, they can't really do anything to them because they can move them along, they can arrest them, but then they end up arresting the same individuals up to 3 times a day, and then they have problems with that with the ACLU and whatnot. And I have some concerns about what I'm seeing, because the burglary and the crime would obviously, to me, in my mental capacity, indicate that that has something to do with the narcotics and probably from the same individuals. And it doesn't seem to be addressed. I'm here not only on my behalf, but the sheriffs that I spoke to in recent weeks have also encouraged me to come and bring this up in light of everything too. And it also kind of goes into what the gun control and all that is. However, I feel that if it's in the Constitution, our forefathers and forebears put that in the Constitution, the right to bear arms, for a reason. I myself, according to my personal preference and choice, do not own a gun. However, I don't feel they should be restricted. The guns are not killing anybody. It's the people and the people selling the guns that obviously are kind of looking the other way. But what can we do to restrict the crime and the narcotics trafficking in broad daylight? Because nowadays, sometimes I call the sheriffs. I'm used to them wanting to have a description. I get the answer, no, not really. When a sheriff comes out an hour later and they start to pull away and I yell outside and they can't see me and I say, do you want me to come down and show you pictures? No, not really. So where's this going to take a stand?
Thank you, Michael.
Thank
Is
you.
Kristen Cook back there? Michael, can you please go see Kristen Cook? She just waved. She's from our Public Safety Division. Thank you. Kathy Blavis to be followed by Stephanie Harker.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor Meister. I actually was away when the tragedy in Orlando happened, and I fortunately or unfortunately didn't even have cell or internet service, but heard it from people staying at the same hotel I was staying at. I was very proud when I heard what our city had done, Mayor Meister, what you had spoken. The idea that David Reed has to call our park Pride Park really struck a chord with me. It coincided with hearing about the Orlando tragedy. I hope we consider that based on other things that people are here tonight are saying with regard to us and what we stand for and who we are. It seems like a no-brainer to at least consider the idea of renaming our park. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Stephanie Harker will be our last speaker.
Good evening, Mayor and council members, members of the public. I too wanted to support David Reed's excellent suggestion to name this park that we're in West Hollywood Pride Park for all the reasons, excellent reasons he stated. Also, we have got to do something about the 15.1% poverty in our town. Our homeless count doubled the last time around. The poverty-stricken are not only the people sleeping in the shadows at night and in the parks during the day. They are our seniors, our neighbors, our friends, the unemployed, and the working poor. This is why I think it's so difficult for many of us to read about astronomical salary raises. WeHo began as a coalition for economic survival and has become a mega-million-dollar corporation. Thirdly, tonight, we all talk about human rights, and yet the rights of the disabled are being violated every day right here in West Hollywood. I refer specifically to Hart Park. Hart Park is one of our public facilities. It is not accessible to all people and should be brought into compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act now, not when the contract with Los Angeles is renewed in 2019, not next year, but now. If it's the money, then let's take some of the money out of the almost $1 million we spend on Halloween frivolity. We are all hypocrites if we do not stand up for the rights of the disabled community members now. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Council member comments? Who would like to start?
I just want to start by saying I'm here.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few comments on some of the things that were said tonight and some other issues. First of all, I want to thank Christopher Street West and Jeff Consoletti for producing an extraordinary parade and festival. It was I think, a very difficult Sunday morning for all of us who were present. One, in light of what happened in Orlando, but I think it was even more difficult because of the incident that occurred in Santa Monica. And it was the incident that occurred in Santa Monica that, at least for me, and I think many of the people I talked to that morning, brought a great deal of concern about what could possibly have happened that morning in West Hollywood. But I know as we rode down on our float that I saw thousands of faces smiling, happy, some smiling and crying, waving, and just nothing was going to stop us from expressing our community's solidarity, our unity with Orlando, and our ability to still turn out, even with fear on our doorstep and a threat apprehended hours before, that nothing was going to stop us from stepping out into the streets and continuing with our LGBT Pride celebration and festival. I want to thank Captain Holly Perez, all the sheriffs, the LAPD, the FBI, all of the law enforcement personnel who were called into service that morning, many on days off, many of whom put in overtime to make sure that every available officer in Southern California was present on Santa Monica Boulevard with us that morning. And you could feel the extraordinary law enforcement turnout. And I think that there were some problems, of course, with delays getting in the festival, but I think most people understood that given the circumstances, it was better that everybody be wanded and searched before entering the festival. I do want to note that many of the bars in the city of West Hollywood have now expanded their security measures to include wanding as one of their nightly security measures in order for people to enter into their bars and nightclubs. And that may just become the new reality for us in the city of West Hollywood, much as the reality exists in Israel and throughout most of Europe, that it appears that what started on 9/11 won't stop and will continue to just be a way of life for all of us and will cause us to rethink just about every public event that we have with large gatherings of people to make sure that we have security in place. I know the bars in the city of West Hollywood are all having a special night tomorrow night, Tuesday, the 21st, where 20% of their proceeds will be going to the Victims Fund for the Pulse survivors and those who lost their lives. I know that almost all, if not all, the bars along Santa Monica Boulevard are participating, and so I would encourage members of the community to step out tomorrow night and be part of those fundraising events. I want to thank Ms. Suzanne Verge, for coming tonight, and if I would like to get in touch with you, I don't know if you can leave your card with the city clerk. One of the things that the LGBT community knows how to do is how to get stuff done. And I am guessing there's probably not any LGBT board members possibly on your board or on the boards of directors. I'm glad to see a nodding face, good. On the boards of directors of other gun control advocacy groups. But we do have people who are very talented at organizing, fundraising. We've had to for the last 40 years. And so if anything, this recent incident has formed a new coalition between Brady Bill advocates and Women Against Gun Violence and other advocates with our LGBT community, and I believe we will forge new relationships and new alliances and work together. It sounds like we are already, but I can tell you that there are thousands of people who are just waiting for direction. And so it may be time to sort of look at the rosters of who we have and figure out where some of our key LGBT leadership can plug into your leadership to help enhance what it is that you're already doing. So if you'll leave a card, I'll get in touch with you separately after tonight's meeting. I wanted to also tell people that the AIDS Life Cycle actually pedaled through West Hollywood on Saturday. It was extraordinary to see the bicyclists come through West Hollywood. I know that my friend Paul Lakakis and I stood at the corner of San Vicente and Santa Monica for 2 hours cheering the riders as they rode in. But I also noticed that many people along Santa Monica Boulevard either didn't know who they were or didn't understand who they were. And these women and men had just finished 545 miles on bicycles, raising $16 million for HIV and AIDS. And I think that given that this was the last stop, they deserved a more hearty reception from the city of West Hollywood. So I'm hoping in terms of the discussions, I know the mayor's planning, I think Councilmember D'Amico are planning for CSW next year. Maybe there's a way we can figure out how to incorporate our Santa Monica Boulevard businesses, cheerleaders, chamber, city staff, neighborhood watch groups along Santa Monica Boulevard to be out there with pom-poms and megaphones and speakers and whatever creative things we can come in with so that people from Doheny to La Brea will understand what these extraordinary women and men are doing and have done. I wanted to alert the community we are having plumbing issues at the temporary West Hollywood recovery site, and so the meetings have had to relocate back to the Worley building. I would ask the city manager this evening in his comments to please either address when we think we're going back to the new temporary space, or if Ms. Collins or Mr. Campbell have an anticipated time so that we can alert the community about when the meetings will be returning back to the new temporary space. Finally, the Last comment I want to make is, the Gay Men's Chorus Los Angeles is something I do. I sing, I'm a tenor. We welcomed yesterday 6 gay men from Havana, Cuba, who came thousands of miles from Havana to perform with us. These 6 young men in their 20s had never been off the island of Cuba. And one of them had, but the other 5 had not. And for them to see West Hollywood and compare it to Cuba, they were in awe from the moment they stepped onto Santa Monica Boulevard and the hours that I spent with them up on the boulevard. I took them to the Abbey, I took them to Mickey's, I took them to Revolver, and they just couldn't believe what they were seeing. The demonstration of an out LGBT community, the lights, the noise, the people, the excitement. They even went into Larry Block's shop. I even accompanied them into Larry's shop. And so it was just an extraordinary night. They'll be performing this Saturday and Sunday with the Gay Men's Chorus at the Alex Theater in Glendale. The concert has taken on special meaning because of the Cuban connection and, of course, the connection to the Puerto Ricans and Cubans that were lost at Pulse last weekend, and so there will be extraordinary connections made at the concert. The chorus is now made available for any individuals on limited income, whether they be seniors, disabled, youth, or others that would like to attend who don't have the resources to attend. If you'll contact my council office and you want to see the Cuban chorus, you will see the Cuban chorus if you wish to attend. So whether you're Cuban or just love Cuban music, we hope you'll join us this coming weekend. Thank you.
Okay. Who would like to go next? Councilmember Horvath?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. First, I also want to thank everyone who made Pride such a special, unforgettable place this year. I started the day in West Hollywood with the Sheriff's Department, and every year there's a photo taken outside the main doors, and the deputy who organized everyone took the photo, and then then led all of us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and then addressed everyone who was gathered there and said that it was more important that day than any other day that they show up for our city, especially to let our LGBT community know how important they are. And I found that to be so moving. I still get choked up. It's been a very emotional period of time. And I thought not only was it moving on that day, but it's so nice to know that the tide in many ways is turning to have people on the side of the LGBT community, looking out for the LGBT community, especially in the face of such hatred and violence, to know that there was our Sheriff's Department and everyone representing our public safety team there to have our backs was really incredible. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, especially. I also want to thank our Mayor Meister for leading the local effort the next day at Mickey's, and I know Councilmember D'Amico was there as well. I also want to thank Councilmember Duran for being at the downtown gathering along with our Mayor Pro Tem Heilman. We all need to create those safe spaces and must remain united more than ever in our efforts to combat hatred, violence, bigotry in all its forms, and to stand in solidarity not only with the families of Orlando, but also to everyone who has faced bullying, intolerance, and injustice. And that's what makes me especially proud to be a part of this community. And so I just want to thank you all for the work that you do. I also want to thank Suzanne. Not only is she here tonight, but she brought the Brady campaign activists to West Hollywood on Sunday later in the afternoon, and they were there standing in solidarity with us as well. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership. Speaking of leadership, our Senator Feinstein's amendment was heard, and as we know, it was voted down today. I was present for the filibuster in the Senate, and I really want to commend Senator Murphy for his leadership and really trying to make something happen on a conversation that is unfortunately all too difficult. But most importantly, witnessing Senator Baldwin honor the Orlando victims was quite moving, and once again, made me very proud to be an American. On a different note, I want to congratulate Commissioner Barbara Meltzer on being the first person in LA County history to receive a third Link Award from the county for her work on aging issues with the LA County Commission for Older Adults. She's also a Human Services Commissioner here in the city. The city was also featured in the LA County Commission's newsletter, The Link, for our Aging in Place initiative. So we really want to thank her for her leadership, not only here in the community, but throughout the county. Our parking garage has been selected by the American Society of Civil Engineers as an Outstanding Project of the Year. This is the second award the garage has received. I'm sure there will be more, and I want to give a special thank you to staff and everyone who worked on this outstanding project. It continues to gain a lot of attention, very well worth it. We opened up the Fairfax bike lanes. It's the first protected bike lane in the city, which has been very well received. This helps to provide critical infrastructure to help make it safer to bike in the community, but also to allow biking to be a real form of transportation to connect to other modes of transportation. The mayor and I were there. She cut the ribbon. We rocked bike helmets. I'd like to say we made them look cool, but I'm not sure we did. But we did certainly have a good time, and it's a very good achievement for the community. I hope you all enjoy using them. National Disability Voter Registration Week is July 11th through the 15th. The Rev Up campaign is coordinating a National Disability Voter Registration Week to increase the political power of people with disabilities while also engaging candidates in the media to recognize the disabled community. For more information, you can go to www.aapd.com/revup. This weekend, I'll be speaking at the Independent Cities Association Conference about short-term rentals. The city will be reviewing our existing policy. I know there's been some interest in the discussion about short-term rentals. We'll be reviewing our existing policy and enforcement efforts at our next council meeting in July, so please be prepared to share your feedback at that meeting. At a recent West Side City's COG meeting, our mayor, while serving as the city's delegate, made the suggestion that our supervisor, Sheila Kuehl, and LA City Council member Mike Bonin be made ex officio members of the COG, which would effectively strip them of voting rights. Since I serve as the alternate, I just wanted to be on record that I don't support that effort. I not only think that it would have a detrimental effect on the functioning of the COG, but also could compromise our important relationships we have with Metro and other efforts. So I would just ask that any such action regarding changes in the constitution of the COG be discussed as a council, and that if we could discuss this at our council retreat about how council members serve as delegates, and also if we could get reports from everyone who serves as delegates to different organizations, if we could get reports to the city council so we know what actions are being taken on behalf of the city, I think that would be great. A couple of upcoming events. I know one was mentioned, which was the Rainbow Key Awards this coming Wednesday. Also on Thursday, the State of the City with the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce is taking place at 5 p.m. at the London Hotel. And on Saturday, there's a household hazardous waste and e-waste roundup taking place in Culver City at the Wind Museum beginning at 9 a.m. I know sometimes I get requests about when is the next one coming up. So it's coming up this Saturday. And that's it. Oh, one more thing. I know we've had some staffing changes in support of the City Council. I wanted to acknowledge our two staff members. Sometimes we get questions, who are they? I'm not quite sure who I'm talking to when I call City Hall. So Andy Lovano and Beth Theriak are both staffing the City Council. If you haven't met them already, they're sitting over here on the right. Please make sure to introduce yourselves to them. They've been helping us for several months now, but I just didn't want to throw it at them too early on. But in case you haven't put a face with a name, they're here. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember D'Amico?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to also add my congratulations to Christopher Street West and LA Pride and send a special thank you to Craig and Chris, the chairs of Christopher Street West. They really did an amazing job. They took criticism quite well. They made a plan and stuck with their plan and made an exciting event that I think people would be hard-pressed to criticize. I'm always in awe of the kind of commitment those volunteers give to this event, and I think certainly, as Councilmember Horvath said, we have to thank everyone who made this event successful, and that also includes the community that stood up and said it's not the event we want yet. And so I want to thank community members far and wide, especially those from the Asian Pacific AIDS Intervention Team, who made some very clear and thoughtful comments a couple of times here. And I think with our attention and their commitment to getting our attention, this event found its footing, and from my perspective anyway, and I spent a good deal of time there Friday, most of the day on Saturday and half of the day on Sunday. I did see that commitment by the CSW board, by the community, by LA Pride and West Hollywood pay off, and it was a very exciting event. And Mayor Meister and I have more to do starting now, so we're looking forward to working on this with all the challenges ahead, including those regarding space and time. So thank you again to everyone. Just some quick items about the agenda in front of us. For item 2L, which is about crosswalk safety, I want to thank the city manager for getting this on the agenda to sort of show the success we've had in reducing crosswalk incidents. It was at my insistence that we put those annoying plastic paddles in the middle of the road, and certainly many have probably cursed me to hell or put my name in their freezer or whatever set of things they might have done to wish me ill, but the proof is in the pudding, and as David Warren said, I too believe that those are canaries in the coal mine, and if people are running into them, they're not seeing them, and that means there's the chance that would we remove them just because they're annoying, they might be running into people again. So I would like us to be very careful and thoughtful about taking those away without replacing them with some other equal or more specific measure to slow down traffic and make drivers aware of pedestrians. I wanted to register my no vote on 2KK. That item is an agreement for services with Kaiser Marston. I understand that they were the only applicant to do this work. I'm not confident that they will do it right, and I would like to register my no vote and actually ask the city to go back out to bid and try to find someone or ones who might be better prepared to do that work. I think coming up with a plan for passing on costs of seismic retrofit in projects that are potentially rent controlled needs to be very, very thoughtful, and I would hope we could find someone to do just that. I wanted to ask the city manager about item 2Y. That's an item for authorize the use of cooperative purchasing agreements with Steelcase and Knoll, and it's been almost 3 months and I still don't have any furniture in my office. Maybe we can make that happen. I'm beginning to take it personally. I know they're purchasing it and we're making it happen, but I actually would like an update, and since I forgot to ask you in private, you can just give it to all of us in public. On item 2M, which is about the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission work plan, I just want to thank Andrew and Michael and their staff. The arts community is really, once again, firmly embedded in the life, the cultural life of West Hollywood. And all of us, including former Councilmember Land and Prang, and certainly others before, have always honored and been interested in the arts, but we have really put a lot of dollars and a lot of focus and a lot of energy in moving that along, and This is an extraordinary work plan, and if and when the budget is passed later today, I think there's an item for artwork for transgender persons to really build capacity in the transgender community of artists. And the item that's in our budget is not exactly reflective of what I had asked, and I will articulate more about that when we discuss it. But I just want to say that I'm just so happy that we have made this commitment, and in the past 5 years we have really moved the ball down the field. Maybe it's wrong to put a sports analogy next to an arts program, but I did it. And so I just want to thank all the staff involved, including Maribel and the city manager, for focusing on that as well. Finally, with respect to the arts budget, this council at the last meeting put a small amount of money into finishing the film Raising Zoe, $2,500, and that film will now be part of Outfest, and it will be showing on Sunday, July 10th at 3 p.m. At Red Cat downtown at the Walt Disney Concert Hall. So once again, our small, well-timed, thoughtful efforts have paid off, and for those who are interested, that will be showing on July 10th at 3 p.m. at Red Cat. And finally, I just wanted to mention that I didn't receive any donations from anyone about anything having to do with anything on this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Heilman.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. I want to first thank Tom DeMille for using his artistic talents to produce these buttons. He always has a way of taking his art and converting it to activism. I want to thank him for that. I too want to thank CSW for putting on the parade and the festival. They obviously had a very challenging year this year. I want to second what has been said about our public safety staff, our event staff, and public safety resources from outside of the community who kept us safe. I also really want to thank our event staff and public safety for creating a medical tent on site, which saved a lot of resources and reduced the runs to the hospital. I think that worked well, and I want to thank them for their creativity in implementing that. And then there's a group of people who don't usually get thanked when we have a big event, and that is our maintenance staff who are out there cleaning up the street, making it look like nothing happened the next day. And it usually takes them about 24 hours, sometimes a little bit longer, but they did, once again, an outstanding job in trying to clean up everything from the parade. Mr. Morton, I think he may have left. He may have spoken to Kristen. He raised concerns about public safety and public safety resources, and that's something that the mayor and I talked about as part of our budget subcommittee. There are additional resources in the budget for public safety, both sworn officers as well as additional security people that will serve throughout the city. It is a big issue on the east side. I know that the city manager is aware of it, as is our public safety staff, and it is frustrating for our sheriffs because they can't arrest people unless a crime occurs, and even when a minor crime occurs, based on what's happening with the county jail system, a lot of times people are cited and immediately released because there isn't capacity. So it becomes this almost ridiculous revolving door. So it is a challenge, and I know that both the sheriffs and public safety staff are aware of it, and we will continue to work on it. I wanted to thank the mayor for her response and organizing the vigil here. As Councilmember Horvath indicated, I went downtown. John Duran is out of the room right now, but I want to tell you that he gave such an outstanding speech that evening. We all know he can talk, but that night he really gave an outstanding speech and captured a lot of what people were feeling and he did an outstanding job. So now that you're back, I can say it publicly. And I also want to thank the people from the Brady campaign who are here. I had the opportunity to attend your recent dinner here in LA. One of their honorees was David Bonnet, who's from the community. There was a large and significant LGBT component there and representation. And I think given what happened in Orlando, that coalition will continue to build. So thank you for the work you're doing. And I hope that people are paying attention to some of the bills at the state level that we have supported. And I hope you will express your concerns to your state senator and your state representative so that more sensible legislation gets passed at the state level. So thank you all.
I want to also thank staff for navigating through some serious bumps last week. Kristen, Cleo, Lisa, Captain Perez, the Sheriff's Department, LA County Fire, LAPD, the FBI. I think one of the hardest things that I've had to do with my colleagues so far is make that decision to go forward on Sunday with the parade, and I'm glad that we did, but I think that we couldn't have done that without all that help that we got from those organizations and their confidence that they would be able to keep our community safe. In terms of the Pride event, I was there on Friday and Saturday night and part of Sunday, and it was a really enjoyable event. And in terms of public safety, really happy that really through the 3 days that we did not see any serious incidents. I'm looking forward to our community meetings this summer to elicit the community's opinions regarding the event and to see how we can move forward for future Pride. Some things of note, I would love to see City Line X run to Hollywood and Highland on Sunday morning to pick up people who might want to be going to the Pride Parade. We had City Line X running on Friday and Saturday and Sunday afternoon, but I think it would have been nice to also have it on Sunday morning. We did have some issues with hot dog carts. They were a major problem this year, so we definitely need to get with the health department to make sure that they are not there illegally and in the way of our pedestrians. And so that's something we need to look at, as well as, there's always issues about trash, and we need to just keep working on it. We'll get there. I'd also like to thank Michael Niemeyer of Mickey's and his incredible staff for accommodating at really the last minute, hosting the WeHo Vigil for the victims of Orlando. And we had over 700 people come together to share their grief, their anger, their frustration, and their sadness. So I thank everyone who came to the event. We had about $2,000 that was raised in cash donations and tips donated by the drag queens at Mickey's last Monday. And Michael Niemeyer will be matching those donations and sending a check to the official Equality Florida Orlando LGBT Victims Fund. So thanks again to Michael Niemeyer. And as Councilmember Duran mentioned, there will be an event tomorrow, Tuesday, June 21st, One Love, One Pulse. And some of the places that will be participating are the Abbey, Bar 10, Fiesta Cantina, Flaming Saddles, Foo Bar, Gym Bar, Gold Coast, Hamburger Mary's, Kitchen 24, Mickey's WeHo, Pump, Rage, Revolver, St. Felix, Tortilla Republic, and Trunks. So we thank them for doing that.
The Whiskey A Go-Go.
Oh, and the Whiskey A Go-Go. Thank you. And as far as meetings that I've attended, a sanitation district meeting, another one, to approve our district's wastewater budget and expenses. Also, as Councilmember Horvath mentioned, cut the ribbon on the Fairfax bike lane and got to experience the bike share bikes, and it was an experience. I visited the Cedars-Sinai Techstars Accelerator, where I got to experience virtual reality, which it was really incredible. So the future for medical innovation is really incredible, and I thank Cedars-Sinai for inviting me to the facility, which is right on Beverly Boulevard and Huntley. I also attended the convening of LA County mayors, where LA City presented their age-friendly initiative and open data model, and Burbank Planning Department discussed their proposed replacement terminal for the Hollywood Burbank Airport. As far as the consent items go, I just wanted to also mention and really give kudos to the Arts and Cultural Affairs Department and Commission. I read in the agenda what they've been working on, and I'm tired. They're doing so many things, and it's really a great thing for our residents and our visitors, and for our city in general. Co-sponsorship, Councilmember Duran and I are co-sponsoring the L Project's Frida Art and Musical Festival, and we need to ask staff to waive the 3-hour maximum time limit for parking in Plummer Park. There would be no fiscal impact on that. It was just omitted from the staff report. So if we can direct staff to do that. The Resident Appreciation Program was pulled, so I guess I'll have time to talk about that later. WeHo responds community resources in the wake of Orlando shooting. That's item 2VV. I'd like to also ask staff to come back with an item of emergency preparedness strategies for our clubs and for our bars, and I think that this would be a joint effort, Public Safety Division, Sheriffs and Fire, Building and Safety, and Planning. I think for the existing businesses, particularly those with high occupancy rates, such as bars and clubs, we should start a voluntary program to put together public safety strategies, exit plans, and so on. And for new developments and remodels, I think that Building and Safety and Planning really should look at how we can promote a safer physical space. And that's it for me. So now can I get the, we have city manager's report. How could I forget?
Yeah, I thought I was going to dodge that one. Thank you. It's nice to be back. I missed the last council meeting. I was back east for my daughter's graduation. And one down, one to go. So a couple of updates. Councilmember D'Amico, your furniture will be installed this weekend. Okay, that's it. No, I'm kidding. So the recovery center, the plumbing has been repaired. Helen Collins will be meeting with the recovery board to start planning their return to the interim facility. So that is done. At the last meeting, Councilmember D'Amico asked that I provide a kind of a brief update on the homeless issues at the county library. As you know, that's a separate asset. It's managed by the county. They have their own protocols and practices for dealing with homeless issues. We have convened a roundtable group of a number of agencies, including social services, arts and economic development, our parking division, public safety, and of course the county library. They meet on a regular basis, and they are working on new collaborative issues to deal with the issues, both from a concern of safety and also public health. The crosswalk update that was asked for was included in the report, and I think the information in that report is very telling and very encouraging in terms of our efforts. One of the things that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of, and we sent out a press release on this, and we'll make sure that we have posting and information at the sites. Over the next 3 days, from June 21st to June 23rd, the LA County Fire Department will be filming a disaster exercise here in the city of West Hollywood. On Tuesday the 21st and Wednesday the 22nd, the filming will be at the 8400 block of Sunset between 8 and 6, and it's going to be staged as a live event, so it will look like an emergency event. On Thursday, we'll be filming activity here on San Vicente Boulevard between Melrose and Santa Monica Boulevard. And using that as a segue into Pride morning, that was a very difficult morning for a lot of us here in the city for a number of reasons. I think waking up to the news and the reports of the Orlando shooting, and then also from a staff and public safety perspective, receiving information on the Santa Monica incident that raised a lot of concerns for our public safety staff. And I just want to specifically call out the interim assistant sheriff Tyler, Chief LaBerge. I don't think I spoke to Chief LaBerge more on any one day, and I hope I don't have to speak to him that much again, but they were really wonderful how they stepped up and provided us the level of public safety that we needed. We did have a number of partners that came to participate in the parade, including LAPD, the FBI. We also had security from LAX. They immediately went from parade participants to public safety mode, and they were all prepared to redeploy themselves, and they augmented a lot of the services that were provided here in the city. And of course, Captain Perez, Lieutenant Smith, and Aloma did a tremendous job. And from my perspective as the city manager, I really want to call them out and thank all of them, including the fire department and Kristen and all of her team. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Done?
I'm done.
Okay. City Clerk, can we get the fiscal impact on the consent calendar?
The fiscal impact, which includes the removal of items 2LL and 2PP, and the addition of the urgency item, which is now item 2WW. The fiscal impact is $7,640,420,000 in expenditures, $578,529 in revenue, and $2,633 in waived fees.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt. Councilmember D'Amico, second by Councilmember Duran.
Madam City Clerk, I have a question. Did that include the removal of 2MM as well?
Two MM, I think
Became
the mayor
5B.
said was renumbered.
Correct.
That
It
had
was
become-
5B,
right.
and now 5B is pulled as part of the
Right,
budget
okay,
discussion.
so, okay.
Yeah, that became 5B on
Very
Friday,
good.
I
Right.
think.
Thanks.
Okay.
It did not include that, but it will be corrected for the record.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Very good. I see we have our finance department here, and we're going to be talking about 2LL. And so that is the approval of the reclassification of 6 positions, 3 new classification specifications, and the revision of 2 classification specifications. Can we do that first, and then?
Well, what we wanted
one?
to, if I could, is to really kind of start from the bigger picture, and then once we do the presentation, we'll get into those specifics.
Okay, so then we are doing 4A, which is the budget
Correct.
discussion.
And what we're going to do is, we're kind of making this up as we go. We're going to give an introduction to the budget, and we then will tackle kind of the 4 personnel issues. One is the 2LL, which is kind of the general MOU classification process, and we'll have HR, Sue Schumacher, to discuss that. I, along with hopefully David, will work on the other 3 items. One of the items is the MOU for the Management Association. The second is the new salary tier recommendation for the executive team. And then the third item will be discussing the reorganization and organizational chart changes that are in the budget. And part of it is I think, the report and how it was presented left some ambiguities. I think there's some concerns that were expressed in the emails to the council today, including my salary, making more than the president, and I think that information wasn't correct, and we'll correct that information, and also the president is way underpaid. And with that, we're going to start off the presentation tonight with a series of videos that were done by the departments and their introductions to their work program. This is a limited number of the videos. We're going to be showing more videos on the website, and during the course of the year, we're also going to be posting additional ones. So we're going to start with a kind of a light presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Aravalo, the City of West Hollywood City Manager, and I'm proud to present the 2016-2018 operating budget and 5-year capital plan for the city. The city's economy continues to be one of the strongest in the Los Angeles region, and we anticipate that it will remain so during the next 2 fiscal years as we are presenting a structurally balanced budget. We have maintained funding across the board for our current level of effort in the provision of city services. In addition, new expenditures are organized into 5 major categories that have been developed over the past year through council direction, community input, and other forms of community engagement. These initiatives include maintaining neighborhood character, improving mobility and circulation, making our community safer, supporting vulnerable communities, and investing in our infrastructure. The budget continues to maintain and enhance the City of West Hollywood as a welcoming, safe, innovative, and creative community for our residents, businesses, and visitors. We are now pleased to premiere a few amateur videos produced by staff. These videos highlight some of the key projects and programs funded in the 2-year budget. Thank you and enjoy.
Historic preservation has become an integral part of the growth of West Hollywood over the past 30 years. Many designated historic properties hold great significance as representations of the city's cultural, social, and architectural heritage. These resources continue to tell stories of times that precede cityhood and of people, events, and ideas that contributed to the city's growth. In an effort to understand the historic significance of buildings and places, historic resource surveys are prepared. These surveys are critical tools for identifying, evaluating, and preserving those properties that give each community its individual character and sense of place. Surveys provide information needed to make informed planning decisions and help educate the public about the built environment as a tangible reminder of the community's history. As part of the work program, the Community Development Department is undertaking 2 separate historic resource surveys, including a citywide commercial survey with over 800 properties and one of approximately 58 craftsman buildings within the residential neighborhood on the east side of West Hollywood, surrounding Lexington Avenue between Genesee and Gardner Street. We look forward to sharing the results of the surveys in the upcoming year.
It's never been easier or more fun to get picked up in West Hollywood. This year's Social Services Division budget includes replacement vehicles for the City Line Shuttle and Dial-A-Ride paratransit service, funded by a combination of grant and Proposition A funds. In addition, the city also received funding to extend and expand the Dial-A-Ride TLC program, which serves city residents who are too frail to access traditional forms of public transportation. The popular City Line X service, which provides a direct connection to the Hollywood and Highland Metro Red Line station, was funded to continue in fiscal year 2017. There is also funding to run the Pickup, the city's entertainment trolley service, on Sundays, year-round.
The Public Safety Department provides oversight of law enforcement and coordinates community programs to reduce crime and increase public safety and the quality of life for the West Hollywood community. We promote both traditional and non-traditional approaches to public safety and recognize the necessity of community involvement. In addition to increasing the sheriff's staffing next fiscal year, we plan to launch a mobile command post in coordination with the Los Angeles County Sheriff and Fire Departments in order to provide another visible law enforcement presence at the neighborhood level. This mobile command post is a smaller Sprinter-type van that will be used as a tool for law enforcement to prevent crime and to better outreach to the community. In addition, it will be used as a mobile command post during major emergencies.
The Department of Human Services and Rent Stabilization implements services, programs, events, and projects that serve West Hollywood's people. The department is the lead in the Aging in Place, Aging in Community Strategic Plan, developed over the last year and to be implemented over the next 5 years. Many municipalities will face complex issues about aging as boomers grow older and as the Gen X and millennial generations transition forward. The strategic plan was developed over an intensive year-long community process, which included expert interviews with people prominent in aging, land use, business, the arts, LGBT, disability, and senior issues, as well as transit programs. Through the 5-year strategic plan, West Hollywood will support its community with fresh approaches and ideas, building on existing policies and programs. The upcoming budget allocates funds to improve the senior center to help that area become a vibrant social gathering space. The budget also provides for refreshing the city's wellness programs. The strategic plan is designed as a replicable model in accordance with AARP and World Health Organization's 7 domains of livability. This framework allows us to further evaluate the plan as it moves forward.
West Hollywood's concrete repair program is managed by the Engineering Division in the Department of Public Works. This capital improvement program spends approximately $500,000 each year to mitigate potential trip and fall hazards by reconstructing broken and damaged curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. Since 1995, we've had an employee walk every sidewalk in the city each year to perform inspections to inventory locations where repairs are needed. Using a computer database, locations are tracked and scheduled. Temporary repairs are done using asphalt patching or grinding. And through the Public Works construction bidding process, contractors are brought in to remove and replace the most deteriorated locations. To minimize community disruption, the contractors typically must remove and replace each location, start to finish, within 3 to 5 days. In addition to correcting hazardous conditions, the repair work is an opportunity to green the city by adding planted parkways and sites for additional street trees. This program is part of the reason why West Hollywood is rated one of California's most walkable cities.
In the next fiscal year, the city will bring us one step closer to solidifying the city of West Hollywood as an engaging arts and cultural destination. Given the popularity of the West Hollywood Library, we are happy to announce that we will provide Sunday hours. At a time when real estate for small theater is shrinking due to increasing rent costs, the city hopes to anchor a Center City Arts District with the potential acquisition of the Coast Playhouse at 8325 Santa Monica Boulevard. The 99-seat theater, which has gone by many names over the years, including the Players Ring Theater, the Pan Andreas Theater, and the Coast Playhouse, will need some renovations to ensure it complies with current codes and its various systems are operating properly before it opens. The successful acquisition of the theater will provide a dedicated venue for performing arts organizations to present theater, music, and dance for the community. The theater will create a nexus between cultural programming, restaurants, and retail to establish a pedestrian-friendly cultural hub in the center of the city.
Thank you. Make sure if you go onto the website, while it's a little over the top, see the one on the dog parks. That was my favorite. Okay. All right. So at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation. We're going to discuss the reclasses in item 2LL, and Sue Schumacher will lead that discussion.
Per the MOU contracts, reclass requests can be submitted to HR from November through January of each year. The process includes A job audit conducted by Human Resources and documentation of the duties are required. Various factors such as level of responsibility, judgment, and authority are reviewed. We look at what has changed significantly with the duties. The revisions are then reviewed by the employee, the manager, the director, and the union. Human Resources then evaluates the salary placement based on 10 factors. A total of 9 reclassifications were submitted to Human Resources. Tonight we have 6 positions that are recommended for reclassification, and 3 reclassification requests were denied. The reclassification process does not result in creating additional positions, but the process provides reclassifications for existing positions. Is there any questions?
Can I just ask a question for clarification? Sure. These are existing employees, and through their request, we've discovered that they're actually working at a higher level or doing more things than their current job description requires them to do.
Correct.
So they're requesting that they be reclassified, and of the 9 requests, 6 of them you're recommending for approval based on the fact that you've reviewed all of those work responsibilities and have determined that these individuals are doing more than what they were hired to do.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Susan, can you explain the 2 that had some big jumps, from the 5220 to 5280 classification, and maybe you can just give us a little background on salary, how that goes with those classifications?
Well, the 2 that had significant jumps, as you say, was the special events technician to special events coordinator. And that was based on the increase of large special events. And the level of responsibility and judgment was more in line with the coordinator level position versus the technician. And the classification of the 28, within that classification, the factors were met for impact of decision. For instance, at a large special event, that person's going to have the responsibility and judgment to make quick decisions, versus in the technician, it's more reviewing the permits. That's a very important duty, but it's not at the higher level. With the aquatic supervisor, that spec was based on the level of experience and certifications that's required for the aquatic supervisor. There are several certifications for our lifeguard staff, and that particular individual needs to have that level of experience and ability to train those lifeguards and is in charge of the safety of the pools.
Do you have a sense of the salary, what percentage that goes up when you have a jump like that?
You know, I'd have to look to our finance gentleman for the percentage, but when they are promoted or reclassed, it's only 5% above their current step.
In general, the city's practice has been to put a person on the very first step, step 1 or whatever is 5% above their current salary. So I haven't looked at these actual positions, but if it's that far of a jump, they're probably going to be at step 1, because that'll be more than 5% of their current salary.
Thank you. Any other questions on this?
And the next item was the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding for the West Hollywood Managers Association. This was a relatively quick negotiation process that included a number of closed session briefings. Additionally, in this item, we did a compensation survey of our comparable cities for the executive bands, and we came up with a recommended change on the executive bands as well. And with that change too, if there are going to be increases to director salaries, they would be done in an incremental fashion as well, and over an extended period of time.
Any questions?
Yes, Paul, as I read it, and I read the emails from members of the public, one of the things that I think is not entirely clear is when I looked at some of the percentages, it just didn't seem to add up to me. So as I understand this, what we are doing is consistent with the city's longstanding policy. We're trying to make sure that our employees are being paid comparable to what other comparable cities are paying their employees at this level. And so that's what these adjustments primarily are doing, as well as ensuring that people who supervise have a salary that is above those that they are supervising.
And that is correct, and we're experiencing some compaction issues now between the bands of the various bargaining units, which isn't necessarily bad. We're just looking, though, to make sure that at least for the critical positions, that we are staying within the market rate that we had established. Some of the MOUs have specific threshold requirements. It's usually within the 75th percentile. I think with the executives overall, they're not that high, but there are adjustments based on the market study that we looked at.
Thank you.
Well, is it possible to look at the low end of the scale and lower the low?
Yes, I think that if we wanted to look, we're looking at a multi-tiered system, and if we wanted to just widen the band by bringing each one of those down lower, that is something we could consider doing, and that creates a new entry-level rate for department heads, and that's something that the council wants to consider. We could do that.
And I will just note that in what's proposed here, the lower end of the rates for the Director Group 2 and the Assistant Directors have not changed. Those are the existing amounts. So it was only established the new ranges for those Assistant Director 2 groups and the additional Deputy City Manager duties.
I just want to ask, Paul, will this, if we go along with what I think the mayor is suggesting here, will that impact in any way your ability to attract and retain people at this level?
No. I think the long answer is based upon market. West Hollywood is still a very desirable place to work. I think that what the lower band would do is possibly create an opportunity for somebody who has a stretch goal, who may not think they're ready for that position, but would apply for it based on the lower rate.
And just to be clear, we're talking about the Director Group 1, Director Group 2, and the Assistant City Manager. Do you want to continue with the presentation on, are we ready for?
Well, there's the last item in terms of positions is part of the budget, and we do this every 4 to 5 years. We will make some adjustments to the city's organization chart to reflect the current work program. With the vacancy created by Sam Baxter when he retired, we did a shift and reorganization of some of the workflow, primarily the oversight of the capital projects, where the visioning and community development side of the process would be done through our Special Projects and Innovations division along with community development. Once the project went through and construction drawings and we awarded the contract to the construction company, then the project will be reassigned to Public Works. With this change, the budget is recommending a number of organizational changes. One is that the Assistant City Manager position would be frozen, and that I would create, along with the department heads, two department heads that would have additional duties. One of them would be the director of finance, who would be deputy city manager to be the lead on all internal administrative matters for the city, and then community development director, deputy city manager to be the lead on all community-related items. Other types of modifications that are in the budget, 5 years plus ago, the Economic Development Division was a department, and the Public Information was a department. I'm reclassifying those again as departments so that they have executive contract authority. Also, with the expanded work programs for both of those divisions, creating a new division manager for art. The arts programs is I think, critical and timely. So those are also being included in the budget. Also, to create kind of a counter to the assistant director of community development, we're creating and modifying one of the division manager positions in finance to make that an assistant director of finance.
And then in addition to that, there's 3 actual new positions being added to the budget. And excuse me, an administrative analyst in public safety, a social services program administrator in social services, and a principal civil engineer in the engineering division.
Paul, can you explain the change in the personnel for the city council?
We have reassigned 3 permanent positions to aid both the executive and legislative offices. We have an analyst position. We have a I'm sorry, I don't have the technical position. There'll be three positions. One of the positions is going to include the community outreach and neighborhood watch duties, among other types of community engagement efforts. We'll continue to have the person doing the legislative and analytical work, and we'll also have the staff support for calendar and other functions. And David, can you read off the technical positions, please?
Sure. And all of these are from existing positions, but there would be what is currently the senior management analyst position, which will do the policy type work and staff reports in those areas. And then the legislative affairs analyst that's currently in legal services will move to that area for the legislative staff reports. And then from public safety, there's currently the community neighborhoods coordinator, I believe the position is, will be moving up to focus kind of on community needs and neighborhood watch and those things, but would be under that area. And then the budget also proposes making a manager level position to supervise those from the current, either the existing assistant to the city manager position or the senior management analyst position. But it would just add additional duties to that existing position. Okay. And then there's the management specialist position, and the administrative assistant that's also in that area will continue to be there.
Okay.
I have a question. I guess I'm just want to put out there as we discuss this that I would like to ask my colleagues that maybe the reorganization of staff that were to be assigned to work with us, that maybe we would defer that until we have our retreat and we can talk about the staffing we'd like to have for our council offices. I appreciate that the city manager has gone ahead to put that together. We've been asking for a year to have a plan, but I'm just, I don't know who those people are. I mean, I know them, they work at City Hall, but I don't know them by their administrative titles, and we're not hiring deputies, but it would be good to have a sort of less formal set of discussions, perhaps, about who might be assisting us and why they're interested and why we want to work with them. I mean, I think City Hall is a great place to work, and we're probably 5 fairly difficult people to work for, and you know, so I'm just saying that that's a month away. It's not 6 years away. We're not waiting for the new building in the park to be finished. We're just waiting till we have our retreat. And so I'm just going to put out there that if in our discussions we would consider deferring just the decisions about who would be supporting us, that would be appreciated.
I just want to clarify, 2 of those positions are currently vacant. These are existing positions, but the senior management analyst position is vacant, and the neighborhoods
So
coordinator.
then I
will be
really don't
vacant.
know them by their position.
Yeah, the retreat's 2 weeks off, and I think from a structural perspective, my suggestion would be, let's move forward tonight. We can always modify it. We won't start the recruitments. We can sit and really talk about expectations and create clear lines for how this is going to function in the future. And based on that, we can develop the work programs and then start the recruitment. And if we need to make modifications, we could do this so at the second meeting in July.
I have some questions about the budget. Can I do that now?
Sure.
On the senior project management supervisor on page 11 of 16, I just wondered how this position is different from the HERE position and why we need both. And that
We
should
may
be
wanna
page
switch
11 of the,
people.
is that the staff report? It might be the staff report.
Because it's
For a,
yes.
yeah, it's on page 11 of the staff report. The senior, it's at the bottom, senior project management supervisor.
Yes. So this is the position that was approved at mid-year. This is actually not new to the budget, but it'll be new in that it'll be filled. It will provide project management similar to what Francisco's doing now during design. They will do that work during the project. So I think Paul kind of described this earlier, but it would be the staff person that's overseeing the project that works directly with HERE or whoever the construction management consultant is.
Okay, and then on the traffic signalization improvement, will that include synchronization of traffic lights?
I believe yes, and Sharon may be here to verify if the answer is not yes, but I believe it does.
And then on the investments in city parking assets, the meter upgrade, will they finally take American Express? Because right now they don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do.
And then regarding the renovations to Hart Park, so my understanding is that these are not including the renovations regarding ADA because the lease needs to be renewed, and that doesn't happen for a couple of years. And I just wondered, can we look into renewing that lease earlier so that we can make those changes because they are very important?
Yeah, we certainly can look into that. And there is some existing money. That's why we didn't budget new money, but there's a little over $200,000 in existing money that could be used there. We just didn't want to put too much investment in it without having the lease renewed and knowing the status of that. But we can certainly work at speeding that up.
Okay, and do you have more of a presentation that you want to give before more questions?
We are happy to answer questions or give the presentation, whichever you.
Can we just give I think, the kind of big picture overview, fund balance analysis, just where we are, and then kind of get into the detail.
Okay, all right. So we'll do that. I'm David Wilson. I'm the Director of Finance. With me are John Leonard, our Revenue Management Manager, and Christine Seyfried, our Senior Management Analyst. We'll be giving the overview. So the budget that is presented is structurally balanced. We are presenting a spending plan that anticipates $116 million in operating revenues and $114 million in operating expenditures and $13 million in capital projects for all funds combined. This also includes the planned drawdowns of about $11 million from reserves for some of the one-time projects in all funds. The general fund, which funds most of the city's core services, is balanced with revenues at $88.3 million, slightly higher than operating expenditures at $86.4 million, and capital projects at $1.9 million, leaving a small surplus of about $59,000. We won't get into the detail of all the funds, but those are included in the attachment to the budget resolution that's shown as changes to fund balance for 2016, 2017, and it's also in the budget document. So we can answer any questions on any of the funds that you may have. The budget is also set up in a way that it discusses work plans more than provides the actual detail, line item detail for every account. There are detailed information about each division within the work plans that shows kind of the major categories, but we provide all the detail on the city's open budget data site for all of the city's accounts, so you're welcome to look at that information there for those interested. And then lastly, there's a few small clarifications or changes for both the staff report and the transmittal letter. The staff report and the transmittal letter mentions that there's 2 new deputies being added to the Sheriff's Department. That's actually 4 new deputies, 2 of them in General Patrol and 2 of them to the community impact teams. It also mentions 2 new security ambassadors of the Block by Block program. Those were actually added at mid-year, so it's new to the base budget in this year, but it's not, it's actually, those have already been added. And then lastly, in the memo regarding homelessness, it says in the first paragraph that the Public Safety Department plans to increase General Patrol and the Community Impact Team staffing July 1st of 2017. That's actually a typo, it's 2016. And it will take some time, it's the start of fiscal year 2017. It'll take some time to actually update the contract and find the staffing, hire those positions, but it will start, it's July 1.
Okay. Councilmember Horvath, you have a question?
My question was about the reclassification.
Oh, okay.
So I can hold it or ask it now, whatever you prefer. No? Okay. So the question I had had to do with, I know that we're reclassifying and based on existing staff. How are we evaluating whether those positions moving forward are the right structure overall, regardless of who's in those positions? Because I think some of the duties we know can be filled by the people who currently hold those positions, but I just want to make sure that we're making structural changes that make sense overall.
I think this is something that we constantly revisit. It's based on work program effectiveness, and that's at all levels of the organization. So it's, I'm comfortable at the mid-year coming back and reporting back on all of the reclasses from the general employees to the management team as well, and just talk about some of the accomplishments and what's working and what's not.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Harmon.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to follow up on Councilmember D'Amico's suggestion that maybe we defer the reorganization of council until we have our retreat, but that doesn't really affect the numbers in the budget, so we could go ahead and make whatever other changes we want to make and approve this tonight. I did want to ask a question, and you kind of answered it already, and I think Kristen is here as well. I know one of our speakers is going to be talking about the problems on the east side. Are the officers, the new officers we're hiring, are they dedicated towards the problems on the east side, or these general deputies that are being hired?
I'm gonna ask Kristen to come down.
Yeah, come on down, Kristen. Just come down. I believe that we will have deputies targeted for the special projects, and we're also looking at additional resources with block by block to augment the public safety on the east side. But I'll let Kristen do her thing now that she's at the mic.
Hello. I don't need to disrupt the whole row of folks here, but the short answer is yes. The 2 new patrol deputies are obviously at Captain Perez's command to put where she needs them, but the reason we're adding those is for exactly those reasons on the east side. In addition, we decided to balance it out with 2 new deputies from the community impact team, and they're most likely going to end up on the COPS team for, again, those exact reasons, the increase in homelessness and then the increase in activity that we're seeing on the east side. The block-by-block security ambassadors that you all let me leapfrog and get them on the street before July 1, they were also added to the east side. So it's part of the bigger picture over there.
Great. And while you're up here, we just approved 2 items on the consent calendar. The agreement for services with the LGBT Center for their domestic violence programs, and an agreement with the Maple Counseling Center for counseling services. And thank you for bringing these forward. My only suggestion is that these seem so much more like social service programs rather than public safety programs. Obviously, there's a big overlap, but I'm wondering if these get the same kind of evaluation and review that our social service contracts get in terms of their performance. We don't seem to see the same kind of reporting for these as we do for social service contracts.
There's a few of you that have asked questions about that, and so I believe next time we do this, it's time to revisit that conversation to see if maybe we should shift some of these contracts to the larger social services review. Each of these contracts started solely in public safety arenas with Department of Justice funding, and that's kind of how they evolved to stay in public safety. In addition, they're very specific in the resources that they provide to our residents. They're very closely tied with the Sheriff's Department, a little bit with the Fire Department. But I think it's completely appropriate to have that conversation again with social services. We tend to model our site visits and reports that we receive from them off of the social services model, but we should do a better job, sharing those reports with you all as well.
I was just saying that because we get, I think, quarterly or at least biannual reports from social services, so maybe that's something that you
We can
need
absolutely
to
share
piggyback
those.
on theirs.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Those
great.
2 agencies do provide those reports to us.
Thank you.
Councilmember D'Amico? Question?
Yes, and so, hi, Kristen. Actually, I also wanted to talk about the public safety part of our budget. And during and after my budget meeting with the staff, I had asked for an update on how much of our public safety dollars, our human services dollars, social services dollars, are spent across dollars across the budget on homeless services. And what I was astounded, strong word, capital A, to read was that we're planning a $14 million public safety budget, of which we are estimating that more than $9 million of that will be spent on homeless public safety. And I'm concerned because that's nearly 66% of our budget, and still we have this disconnect between public safety and homeless persons. And I hope this memo is in the back with our agenda. It was sent out to the entire council because I think it deserves some attention from whoever might write about this meeting, however we might get the information out about how hard we're working this problem, and yet still it eludes us in many ways. In many ways, we're clearly working a lot of the problem. But, and I noticed that, at least if I'm doing the math right, we are committing $1 million more in officer time, of which by rounding up, 75 to 80% of that time will be spent on homeless services. I'm hoping just in officers alone, and perhaps the captain will address it at a subsequent time, but will be spent on the east side. I think all of us know that the problems that are born in West Hollywood and those that are born in Los Angeles and migrate into West Hollywood every day. But I think, so if we look at that, and then we also look at our human services, we spend about $1.7 million on human services. So we spend nearly 6 times as much on public safety than we do on human services, which, again, I think is probably the right ratio, but it's still causing us to spend a lot of dollars we could be spending on other kinds of public safety if those problems could somehow find solutions. So I I think that it's really critical that we put this information in the talking stream about how hard we're working this problem. It's not something we have turned a blind eye to, but it's something we need to increase our focus on. And I wanted to say to the staff who winced when I asked them to put this together, thank you again publicly for doing that. It's an extraordinary document, and it's 6 pages about how we know this problem inside and out, and we're looking for solutions. And I guess I would say one more thing, that clearly this is a problem that needs some more additional help from our county colleagues, and I'm hoping it's on its way at some point, and if it's not, we will continue to do what we can. So I don't know if you have any comment about this budget item, about the amount of dollars we spend and how they're targeted, but I would certainly be interested if you did.
Sure. I mean, we're very fortunate in West Hollywood that we don't have, shootings every day and that type of thing. So we can take our officers and have them focus on homeless issues, quality of life type issues as well. So that it's an astounding fact. I'll use your same word because I was astounded as well when we actually sat down and mapped it out. But it shows, that we're fortunate here in West Hollywood that we do have extensive resources to deal with issues that affect our residents' quality of life, in addition to preventing crime, responding to criminal activity. We felt, working very closely with Captain Perez, that the additions we needed to make for the sheriff's budget needed to be, specialized deputies that are going to help focus on this very issue. It's the primary complaint I get to my department. I can't speak for Captain Perez, but I'm sure it's probably their majority of their complaints as well that come into the sheriff's station. So I think that working closely with social services, because it's not just public safety, it's not just social services moving forward, these additional deputies, and then we'll just have to keep shifting the pieces around to make sure we get the right combination as we go. But I'm optimistic that these new resources will start to make a difference, as we saw the new block-by-block security ambassadors make a difference as well.
Thank you, Kristen. Councilmember Duran, do you have a question?
Just a couple for Kristen while she's here on public safety. So I know that in the county of Los Angeles, the number of homeless is comparable to the entire population of the city of West Hollywood. So I get that a lot of the work we need to do in concert with our colleagues in the city of Los Angeles. And I know that they're currently debating whether to put an initiative on the ballot for their residents to vote to tax themselves, or whether they're going to be looking at some long-term bonding solutions to deal with the homeless issue. But they're talking billions. They need to raise, I think it was $6 billion is what I read in the Los Angeles Times. So I know that, what we're doing here with our small town of 35,000 and the homeless that we have, the approximately 80 people who end up getting pushed and back across La Brea and Doheny on each side. I think that, our staff's to be commended for the work that we do, because the problem is, I think, much bigger than just West Hollywood. It's much bigger than just the West Side. It's a countywide problem. I had a question about the mobile command unit. I know that historically the East Side has been desiring a substation over on the east side of town. This mobile command unit, could it live on the east side primarily, and then as Captain Perez, as she needs to move it for other special events, move it around town, is it possible to use this mobile command unit as in lieu of a substation, or to live on the east side to help with the problems that we're having?
We do plan on making it very visible on the east side. So again, I can't speak directly for Captain Perez on exactly what it can replace or augment, but absolutely that's the intent, is to get it out, especially on the east side, with deputies working in the community, make it very visible for those people who may want to commit a crime, or just kind of loitering in the neighborhood and making it uncomfortable for residents. So it is ready as of Wednesday this week. We just need to put the decals on the side and get it in the field. So again, that's our primary target, is to use it on the east side for now, and then we'll shift it around as the needs arise.
The last question, there's a story in the LA Times, I think 2 days ago, about the Los Angeles County sheriffs going through intensive training about dealing with mentally ill people. And I assume that Captain Perez is going to do her best to make sure our deputy sheriffs either go through that training or we acquire some of those deputies, because a lot of the issues around homelessness are mental health issues, whether it's mental health as related to addiction, long-term drug psychosis, or other issues surrounding poverty and homelessness. So I'm hoping we can be sure to have that training done in our sheriff's department.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We have a number of public speakers. Todd Hallman, to be followed by Jean Dobrin.
Good evening, Mayor Meister, council members. I'm sure many of you know why I'm here, and I'll be honest with you. I don't really like being here speaking in front of chambers, but I'm going to continue to come and speak on behalf of the East Side as our neighborhood watch captain for Detroit and Formosa Avenues to make sure that we're not forgotten, especially tonight when you're going to vote on the budget. I also want to thank you for hearing us in the past and helping us with block by block and additional patrol. But our transient problem is not going away. And as I travel west through the city as a resident, I see it spreading. Now, I've been told that when the city sends out notifications about neighborhood watch meetings, they send out about between 1,000 and 1,300 cards. They average about 5 to 10 people in attendance. We get over 50. Neighbors, residents, businesses that are concerned. This, to me, states there's a problem. At our last meeting, the manager of Massage Envy, which is located at the Dillon, got up and spoke about the horrors that they have to endure from transients coming in and taking over the facility, and the nightmare of a transient taking a used condom and smearing semen all over their windows. They now keep their doors locked during business hours. I've heard complaints from Ralph's, Ulta, Starbucks, and Rite Aid. We have a problem. We need the money allocated to the East Side and to the city. We have an amazing police department led by Captain Perez, but they can't do their job. We need your help, and I ask that the funds are allocated.
Thank you, Todd. Jean Dobrin, to be followed by David Warren.
This is Jean Dobrin, resident of West Hollywood. I'm taking umbrage with this LL. And by the way, when I spoke formally, I said it was LL, but it was really F, for whatever, F, a different thing. Anyhow, there are 3 wonderful sheriff's departments in our department, as well as the others. The top ones are Captain Perez, Lieutenant David Smith, and a new one, Lieutenant David Diviak, who has just been here for about 3 months. Anyhow, what I'm upset about is, with all this talk about the different grades, to there, to there, to there, no actual dollar figures are mentioned. One of the first groups that they speak about is the Public Information Office. The Public Information Office has made and is still making lots and lots of errors and wasting of the time that is given us, for instance, on Warner Cable. I can't talk about that too much, but the Public Information Office is very, very, very bad. On Saturday last week, it was telling us all the things that were going to happen on the 5 previous days. Monday the 13th, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Is that what we are telling people and using 36? I also feel that we have to know more about salary. And by the way, you may not like to hear this, but the person who should get a higher salary in this city, and I know what her salary is Yvonne Corker. She is doing a fantastic job from the city, and She is making well under $100,000 when a lot of people who are not doing the work are making $150,000.
Thank you, Jean. David Warren, to be followed by Cynthia Blatt.
David Warren, resident of West Hollywood. Speaking purely for myself, I wanted to first just congratulate the city manager and the staff on all the information that they shared in the budget. I feel like it's a good thing it's 2-year budget because it's going to take me 2 years to go through it all and learn everything I can from it. Some things that have been mentioned, I think, in the course of the evening, but that I didn't know that I was excited about: the 4 new deputies, the Sunday trolley service year-round, Sunday library hours, and apparently we've won over $3 million grant to do the work on the Melrose streetscape. So these all were excellent things. I have a particular interest, as you know, in traffic relief. And I think that it's amazing all the things we're doing in terms of transit and bikes, pedestrians, and parking as well. But I feel like we need a conscious and significant traffic relief effort to balance it out. I mean, the reality is that most of us who live in the city wind up sitting in the traffic, either in a car or on a bus, and yet there's actually nothing that I could find in the work plans for the city engineer and for long-range and mobility planning that was really specifically about traffic relief. I know that indirectly the things that we're doing in the alternative modes should help in the long term, but I think that we really should really focus, and in parallel with all the alternative modes, we should be trying more things, trying to dream up things that we can do on the traffic relief side. So specifically what I would ask you to do is direct the staff to add traffic relief to the work plans for those 2 divisions, and to set aside money in the second year of the budget, I'm guessing it's $100,000, but I don't know, for a study to look at our traffic relief options, to dream them up, because I know the staff believes that they're doing everything that they can, and they may be right, but my hope is that if we put some money into it and really focus on it, we can come up with some new ideas. I thought it would link in well with the signal synchronization effort that the council's already directed, and also be a good follow-up to the traffic study that's being done this year. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Cynthia Blatt, to be followed by Larry Block.
Hi, Cynthia Blatt, West Hollywood. I was not so excited about this budget when I saw it, particularly about the staffing issues. They weren't, when there were public meetings on the budget, these staffing issues weren't mentioned. So what we're looking at is reorganizations, we're looking at promotions, we're looking at reclassifications for enormous amounts of money at the same time that this same city agenda asks for 23 contract renewals. So what we're asking for is rich compensation for employees of City Hall without sufficient justification for why. What increase in larger public events? Mr. Aravallo hasn't given any clear explanation for what the expanded duties are that we're paying so much money for. And if we are paying, if it is justified to pay these kinds of salaries, to jump these levels with such huge amounts of money, then why do we need so many consultant contracts? So to have put this in, the budget after the public hearing is really, after the public meetings, is really budget by ambush. And what I ask of the City Council is to strip out all of the personnel actions from 2LL, from 4A, and from 5B, consolidate them into one staff report, continue them to another City Council meeting, and give the public a chance and the City Council a chance to actually get their questions answered. Because this is not... this is an egregious violation of the public trust, and I ask that the City Council reinstate that public trust by pulling out these personnel actions. I recognize you have to pass the budget. It's fiscal year end. Pass the budget. But all of these personnel actions do not have to be passed tonight, and they can be stripped out and continued to another City Council meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. Larry Block, to be followed by Steve Martin. Thank you, Jean.
Larry Block, West Hollywood. Hello, everybody. Well, compliments on the budget and a great city revenue, but I want to talk a little bit about the raises, and I have a question for David. We have union contracts Are these increases procedural based on the fact that our contracts are in place and this is just protocol to be able to restructure in this way? Or, is there precedent? Because we have union contracts, we have union employees. What is the problem with the work that we're doing now that will cause a reorganization? So knowing that answer, assumingly that it is, not, if it's procedural, it'd be great to apply and get a job answering phones at City Hall for $4,500 to $6,500 a month. Those jobs should be open for West Hollywood residents. Is there a requirement in any of the budget that 1 out of 2 people must live in West Hollywood? Because I can tell you, it's a pleasure to have Lisa Belsante live in West Hollywood, because all those hours that she's not working from 10 to 5, she's in the community. So you can get a less talented employee that doesn't exactly live up to the interview, but because they're giving 100% of themselves all year round, all night long around the clock, as a West Hollywood resident, we benefit more as a city by having West Hollywood residents employed. And just generally speaking, some of this reminds me of like the auto industry as a young city. Looking years down the line with these increases, the increase in entitlements. Is there a study done to find out what the increase in entitlements are going to look like to a city 20 or 30 years down the line? With all the pensions that we owe and everything else that will maybe cramp social services? How do we ensure Dial-A-Ride is still working 20 or 30 years from now if we have all these entitlements? Can't we provide for free pride if we can give raises? Isn't there a lot of things we can do with money to put citizens and community first? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Steve Martin, to be followed by Stephanie Harker.
Steve Martin, West Hollywood. Libraries open on Sunday. Yay, way overdue. Coast Playhouse, wonderful. I was kind of surprised. I love the pickup line. Pickup line's very successful. But, on 2T on the consent calendar, you guys voted to raise the marketing for a successful program from $40,000 to not to exceed $200,000. And it just seems odd, $200,000, that's like almost half a city manager. This seems like a lot of money, and it just seems like, I know we're rich, but somewhere these are real dollars, and we've got to make the most of them, and that's whether that's for law enforcement, legal services, social services. I've represented people. I have friends who I've referred to Betzedek. We talk a lot about aging in place. Let me go back a second. We talk about aging in place, but long-term tenants are being systematically harassed out of their units. And I had a friend who went to Betzedek after she was served with a 5-day summons. Betzedek couldn't see her till the 6th day. And that's not Betzedek's fault, but it's not helpful if you can't get access. We need to be much more aggressive about providing legal services to people who are being harassed out of their units, because this whole aging in place thing makes no sense when you can't live here. I live on the east side. I appreciate what John D'Amico said about making sure we get bang for our buck out of this money, particularly what Todd Hallman said. It's hard to add to that, but I walk a lot on the east side. The only place that is spooky is that corner of La Brea and Santa Monica Boulevard. And it's a lot like the old days when you knew you were coming into Santa Monica Boulevard, or coming into the city of West Hollywood, because it used to be full of hustlers and transgender prostitutes. But it's very similar now, and it's not a step in the right direction. And we really need to focus on the east side, because frankly, the shenanigans and crime that go on the east side are not tolerated on the west side. And you don't see these people going on to the west side to do this kind of stuff. They're all focusing on our side of town.
Thank you, Steve. Stephanie Harker, to be followed by Kathy Blavis.
Stephanie Harker, City of West Hollywood. Thank you, Mayor Meister, for asking staff about disabled access to our public facility, Hart Park. With all due respect, Mr. Wilson, if I understand you correctly, your response to the mayor was why the city has not brought Hart Park into compliance with the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act is that we are waiting to see if we renew our contract before we spend the money on it. I hope that that's not what you meant. If Hart Park was inaccessible to LGBT people, to black people, to women, we'd find the money yesterday. But instead, for all these years, WeHo has operated a park that is not accessible to all its citizens. Let's comply with the with the law. Let's stand up for people who can't, and please find that money now.
Thank you, Stephanie. Kathy Blavis, to be followed by Marnie Carmin.
Bright lights. Kathy Blavis, City of West Hollywood. I'm a commissioner on the Historic Preservation Commission, but I'm speaking for myself tonight. I'm not speaking for the commission. And I was really struck by the video presentation with the emphasis on our historic preservation. And what concerns me is at our last meeting, we voted unanimously for a full-time staff person for historic preservation, not what's in the budget, which is includes funding for an on-call consulting service for access to a specialist in historic preservation to provide additional resources during the planning review, blah, blah, blah. We want that, but we also need a full-time staff person. And I just don't understand why we have commissions. If something goes before the commission and staff chooses to ignore it, why am I bothering? Why are we bothering? So that really concerns me. It's wonderful that we're having a survey of the craftsman bungalows, and I certainly tip my hat to Councilmember Duran for that. But if it weren't for community, it may not have happened because, again, this is something we've been asking for. So there's so much in the budget that I've heard tonight. I confess I did not read it. I've been listening. It is mind-boggling how much is consolidated into allowing each of us 2 minutes to express an opinion about where all this money is going. So I don't, I listened to what Cynthia Blatt said, and maybe that's the way to go. Pass the budget tonight because you have to, and let's think about some of these other things. Let's think about the promotions. Let's see if there isn't a way to get a full-time staff person. And oh, by the way, if we could get money for some more microphones that work better at some of our community rooms, maybe the East Side Working Group could actually meet on the East Side. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Marnie Carmin, she'll be our last speaker.
Yes, I'm Martin Carmin, and I came here primarily to, in a congratulatory, grateful spirit, thank John Heilman for being so supportive and attentive during an eviction attempt, which I prevailed, or the case was dismissed about 10 days ago. And I also see that Steve Martin is here, and he was very, very helpful. Back in December, it was a 6-month process. And I obviously, who wouldn't be threatened? And I actually spoke at one of these council meetings about a month or 6 weeks ago about having a support group, because I've heard now that 2 people have committed suicide due to this process of eviction. And of course, I was nowhere near that realm, but I understand those feelings. And I actually was prompted to sign up here rather than just to go to John and to Steve personally after when we adjourned. But when I heard about these overlap with the public services and social services, it couldn't be more timely. This is my son, Brendan. I brought him up here because this is my family. And he was being evicted. Anyway, because of the way I prevailed, so to speak, as they say, now I'm subject to vandalism. My patio glass table was smashed by the person who instigated the eviction. And I called the sheriffs, and after about 2 hours, you would have thought that a murder had taken place, because there were about 6 sheriffs and many personnel. And so then I'm going to go tomorrow to a social worker, because there is clearly elder abuse involved. This is not and I have a witness, thank God. Somebody was on the street walking up the sidewalk and heard this man's tirade, and one tiny bit of it was, "Why don't you die already?" And this man was shouting these horrible, horrible things. Anyway, I'm not here to disclose other than what I did just now, but the public service and the social services overlap have been really very, very good for me. I mean, I must say, plus the witness, the man that happened to be a neighbor down the street who happened to walk by.
Thank you, Marnie.
Thank
Good
you,
times.
Lauren. I know it's time to go.
Thank you. Councilmember D'Amico?
Thank you. I just thought maybe I would address some of the questions. Specifically, a couple of people brought up item 2T about the addition of funding for the pickup line work. And what that does is that increases the amount of work by $45,000 to a contract total of up to $200,000 over what is now 2.5 years of work. So that's about $10,000, a little less than $10,000 a month for 30 months worth of work. So I think it is a lot of money, but it's also clear that it is paid off. We have 1,600 to 2,000 people riding that on the weekends. That's a lot fewer people potentially drinking and driving, a lot fewer potential interactions with our sheriff's department, costing us more money. So I think we buy service and we save money all the time. Those are the kinds of transactions these kind of programs provide us. I wanted to return to my discussion about the item in the budget on page 10 of 16 about the transgender arts initiative. So what I had hoped might be in here, and perhaps my colleagues will consider just these two small amendments. One is that I think this should be a 5-year initiative. I think there should be dollars set aside for 5 years in a row, and I would hope that in this first year we might add just $10,000 more for some capacity building for arts organizations. If you read in 2M, the Arts and Cultural Affairs Plan, one of the things that our city has done a remarkable job of doing is finding small to medium-sized nonprofits, giving them $2,000 to $3,000 grants for them to build capacity. And that means we now have Outfest here in West Hollywood. It means that we had MoCA put a show in alongside the One Institute of the Tom of Finland show and the AIDS Art America show. It means that we have dance in West Hollywood now. And transgender artists, like many artists, have a difficult time finding a place, and creating capacity within arts organizations to allow and help transgender artists to make art, I think is a critical piece of this 5-year, what I hope will be this 5-year initiative. So I'm just asking that we stick with what's in here, this $25,000 for transgender visibility, but we add a small amount of money for some capacity building in some arts organizations, and then we leave it up to the Arts and Cultural Affairs Commission to do that exciting work. I wanted to also mention that David Warren brought up a subject that's near and dear to my heart, my aching daily commuting heart. For those of us who have 9-to-5 jobs, traffic mitigation is the meal we actually want to have every day, not the dinner we get home to. So I think that if it's possible for us to prioritize some traffic mitigation dollars to do some of that out of the box or out of the traffic lane thinking, I believe it could bear fruit. We certainly have figured out how to do traffic calming in our neighborhoods. I know we have these large developments coming online, and they have millions of dollars of set-asides for impacts. For example, the CIM project, I believe we barely touched any of those dollars. They had, I think, $4.5 million set aside for impact mitigation, and I think we should just really think about a 2-year plan while these new projects are opening to have traffic mitigation as part of our thoughtful planning that we do overall. And I guess the third and final item, the penultimate item, is I do think we should look at Hart Park and put whatever upgrades are required for accessibility. I wasn't aware myself of it being inaccessible. Perhaps it's been discussed much at the Public Facilities Commission, but now we are aware of it. I think we should, in fact, begin the process of making whatever interventions might be reasonable and helpful to make that park accessible. And finally, I just want to say, I know there's an item in here, a fairly expensive item, to put the library open on Sundays, and I can't support that today. I think our library is it's an important facility. I've never received a single email asking me to open the library on Sunday, but I do know that according to the city manager, there's a subcommittee that's being put together to figure out solutions to the homeless problem in the library, and I think until we know the answer to that, until we have a full understanding of what that might be, and perhaps that's only 90 or 180 days away, but at this vote, I'm going to ask that we vote on that separately, and I'm going to not vote to not support that. I do think it's an important resource. I do think we need to get there, but right now it's, we have a $36 million homeless shelter that many people are not comfortable in, and we need to do some hard work to figure out how to best use our resources, including our library and other resources for homeless services. So those items, I think, I will continue to pursue as we have this budget discussion this evening. Thank you.
I just actually wanted to ask the city manager some questions, if he could possibly address the pensions question and historic preservation and Hart Park. And I also wanted to mention to the public, because in some of the emails there was a question about organizational charts and staffing and the amounts of money and the changes happening. And I think that maybe you didn't see that there was actually, for each department in the budget itself, for each department there is an organizational chart. There is also the number of full-time positions with a comparison from 2012 to 2016. And with regard to the provisions of the budget, the wages and benefits include all salaries and benefits, am I correct, for that department, including WeHome staff, not just directors and managers.
So it wouldn't be a budget meeting without Oscar Delgado talking. So I'm going to let Oscar come up and talk about Hart Park. The pension issue is a serious issue that all cities are dealing with. Since I got here over 25 years ago, we have been working on long-term financial strategies and long-term financial plans. We always maintain a 5, 10, 15, and 20-year financial forecast. So as we look at all of the challenges that are facing us, we do have reserve set-asides. And we're one of the few cities that does have, even though it's pay-as-you-go for pensions, we do have a pension reserve set-aside within our general fund. So it'll always be a challenge. Over time, though, with the pension reform, the liability will be reduced. But for now and for the future that we could at least, look at now, where the city and its pension and employee costs are fine. The historic preservation, we agree that there are some deficiencies in terms of the staffing in that particular program. What we're looking at doing now is twofold. One is increasing the budget to provide training and certification for staff so that we do have the appropriate level of staffing for the Historic Preservation Commission. We're also looking at an on-call consultant that would be available as a community resource for historic preservation. We suggest starting off with a consultant just to see whether or not the demand is there for that particular service. If, come mid-year, we're realizing that the consultant's working, 40 hours plus a week, then we may want to look at retooling and adjusting the program to have a actual full-time person doing that. We do believe, though, that there may be work in the beginning, but after a while that may taper off. But it's something that the resources are there for us to study it and come back at mid-year with a longer-term solution for the council to discuss. And at this time, I turn it over to Mr. Oscar Delgado to talk about ADA, our ADA program in general, and what we're doing at Hart Park.
Good evening, Oscar Delgado, Director of Public Works. We actually are going to start addressing Hart Park. We have $85,000 budgeted this year. There's $139,000 that we've got dedicated for ADA improvements for all our facilities, and a portion of that is going to Hart Park as well. Part of the challenge is, I think you mentioned earlier, is the lease is set to expire in 2019, so we'll be working diligently to expand the lease, but Hart Park is on our radar.
So does that mean we're working on ADA issues
Correct.
this next budget cycle?
Yes, we are. Part of the challenge with Hart Park, as you know, is if you're on Sunset, you can't get down to it. So there's a lot of issues that we're looking at with Hart Park, and there's some ramping concerns as well at the park itself.
Just to clarify, and I want to go back to what David said earlier, we don't own Hart Park. We are a tenant there. And I think what you were suggesting is that we need to renegotiate our lease. Our lease is about to expire, and I'm sure the city of LA is going to renew that lease, but we should do that simultaneously with making these capital investments in Hart Park.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I follow up with Oscar Delgado? I actually have other comments too, but on the Hart Park issue, as part of the renegotiating of the lease, could we get Los Angeles to share in the cost of the ADA compliance since they own it and we're just a tenant leasing it?
We could always take a look at that, of course.
All right. Okay. And then I have general comment now. Okay. Thank you, Oscar. Okay, just some general comments on the budget. I think that I just want to start out by thanking our Department of Finance for presenting.
Jean. Sorry, Councilmember Duran.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to start by thanking our Department of Finance for presenting a great budget, a balanced budget, and being responsive to the community and the 2 budget workshops that you held, and of course, questions that you're asked all the time. And I think other communities would love to have the quality problems that we're actually talking about tonight, that we actually have resources and we're not talking about cuts in programs or cuts in staff or layoffs. It's true that the budget was introduced 2 weeks ago. We've all had this document for 2 weeks, and now we're talking about it this evening. But I don't believe that budgets are prepared, in a council meeting or 2, but they reflect continuing discussions and analysis and work that council, staff, and community do all year long. These budget numbers are not just pulled out of midair. They're compiled budget after budget and year after year based upon current needs, needs that are changing, needs that are anticipated. And so budgets are not gospels. They're approximations of what we anticipate will be both receiving in revenue and spending out in expenditures in the upcoming 1 to 2 years. I want to comment a bit about our executive pay and the positions. West Hollywood is a really great place to work, and I think that we have got top-notch staff, top-notch managers, top-notch directors, and executives. And because they are top-notch, they should be treated as professionals, and they're deserving of the pay that they receive. I don't think it's possible to have a residency requirement for any employee. It would be unlawful to have a residency requirement. But beyond that, many of our staff members, I'm sure, would love to live in the city, but the 15% of our housing that is condos and apartments is not in many people's budget to be able to afford to live in the city of West Hollywood, but they dutifully do commute in from other places in order to work here. I think that the salaries that our staff receives, and that includes our managers and directors, again, those are not figures pulled out of midair. They are
Jean.
They are based on comps where we compare the salaries that we pay our executives, directors, and managers to other neighboring communities. And the comps do show that the salaries that our staff are making are comparable to neighboring communities. I think the fact that West Hollywood is such a great place to work, we have very low turnover because people are generally happy here. When we have low turnover, we save on hiring and training costs. And that's also something that has to be considered, the economic cost of the fact that we have very low turnover in the city of West Hollywood. I think that I just want to make sure that our staff hears that you are professionals. You deserve to be treated as professionals, and the dollars that you receive for the services that you provide to our community are well-earned. In fact, you're probably underpaid in some cases. They're well-earned. And I think that most people in our community know that they're well taken care of. Reality is we have a part-time council member system up here. The 5 of us all have real jobs that we have to attend to during the day. We get to look at city issues sporadically throughout the day and maybe evenings and weekends, but the lion's share of the work that's done day to day is done by the city manager and his staff, his directors, his managers, and all the staff in the city of West Hollywood. So the fact that the quality of life is so high here in West Hollywood, that it's such a desirable place to live, work, and play, really is a result of the work of our staff, including our executive staff. And so I'm prepared to support the presentations that were made tonight. I don't think we need to defer consideration of them. I think that we've had an opportunity to analyze these positions. The MOU, of course, we've been talking about for months in closed session as we've watched the contract negotiations with WeHome, and we know that in fact that our managers and directors, that their compensations are also adjusted for CPI and based upon the negotiations with WeHome. So I'm prepared to go ahead and support that tonight. I think that we can pass the budget as presented. I want to agree with Councilmember D'Amico's suggestion about transgender art, but I think that as time goes on, really work skills and job training are also critical. I think that is the biggest challenge for our transgender community and why we see so many homeless transients who are transgender on the east side is it's the lack of access to job and economic opportunity because often employers will not hire them because of their appearance, perhaps, in part, but also because of their lack of the job training skills that would be required to make them employable. So I appreciate the art suggestion. In fact, the Transgender Chorus of Los Angeles would love to have access to additional funds, but I'm hoping that we're also dedicating adequate funds to job training and skills training for our transgender community so we can move them off the streets, move them away from being sex workers, move them away from being neighborhood hazards and into employable positions within the community. all in all, I think that Paul and the staff have done an excellent presentation in presenting our budget, considering all the needs of the community over the past year, and putting together a community that identifies 5 really great priorities based upon, again, weeks and months of analysis and not just analysis over the last 2 weeks. And I'm prepared to support the items this evening.
Councilmember Horvath, do you have questions or comments?
Yes, thank you. First, I want to thank our council subcommittee and our staff for bringing this forward. I know that you guys have been working on this for a long time, and I appreciate your hard work in bringing forward a balanced budget. I'm supportive of the requests regarding the transgender art program. One of the questions I had was, I know that council has already requested that we do a comprehensive, a citywide traffic study. This has been brought up in the course of discussion over multiple projects in the city. So isn't that, I've been told by community development that that study is in their work plan, so I assume that that's in the budget. Is that correct?
Bianca, would you mind coming up?
Hi, Bianca Long Ranger, Mobility Planning Manager. That is in our work plan, and the citywide traffic study is expected to begin at the end of this year or early next.
Okay, so that is accounted for in the budget then? Okay, so that is that big part of what the traffic relief effort, I think, is. If there's something beyond that study that needs to be done, I think, being specific about what that is, but I think that study is going to go a long way to helping us really understand what our traffic problems are in order to be able to address them. So I'm glad that is actually included in the budget. We have a lot of diverse social service needs in the community. And yet we're going through an RFP process right now to make sure that all of those are provided for, and we have in our budget provided funding to make sure that those services are provided to our community. So I think that's something we're always very proud of in the city, that we work hard to take care of our most vulnerable. But living in the city, a lot of people say that they come here because it's clean, it's well maintained, it's, and that happens because we have people who work hard to do that, and we also provide the funding to make sure that public works efforts and all of those efforts are funded and taken care of and attended to right away. So I think our budget is mindful of a lot of those issues that other city budgets aren't, because they can't be or because they don't think about it. Either way, I think in many ways our budget is very thoughtful in those regards. One question I do have, I think public safety challenges are continuing to change, but one issue that has been raised pretty consistently is deputies and the assignment of them based on overtime versus being full-time dedicated deputies. I understand that we have these new positions in the budget, but I just want to make sure that the new positions that are being created are full-time positions. They aren't reliant on overtime participation from the deputies, and making sure, can you explain how many, whether we have a continuing number of deputies that are employed only as their overtime participation allows?
Kristen or Holly may want to address that, but if I get it right, you don't have to come down. I think that when we increase the budget and we have the dedicated deputy, it is our goal to fill the dedicated deputy. We get more consistent service, and in the long run, it's cheaper for us. But if they're having staffing issues and they just don't have deputies for us to hire on a permanent basis, then the next best thing for us to do is to fill those positions with overtime deputies, so at least we have a body out there. But the goal is, every time that we have a permanent position, is to get a permanent deputy in that spot.
So based on that, how many of our deputies are based on overtime assignment versus,
Captain's here. Come on down, Captain.
You were close. Thank you.
I got the first part.
I raised the issue because I think I understand from, a staffing perspective and perhaps for a financial perspective why we might want to consider overtime hire. But I think from, some of the concerns that we're hearing, not having full-time staff can communicate to the community that if you're not full-time, that you don't always have that resource available and that we're not investing in a full-time resource. So I just really want to understand and make sure that we are investing in a full-time resource, given the concerns that are being brought up and how exactly that's happening, even if we have some of those positions being filled by overtime.
Thanks. It's my goal to have people assigned to West Hollywood, not overtime people, especially working those positions. I think it's, what I really want to do is have one deputy that's assigned to the east side specifically as a beat deputy or whatever name you want to call it. But that person would have the overall responsibility for the homeless issue and any of the gateway issues that come up and things like that. So that everybody, the city, the citizens, have one point of contact. I think that's essential.
And that's a full-time person?
Yes.
That's not, if somebody fills overtime?
No, I don't want to use an overtime person if I can help it.
Okay.
In fact, I had the conversation with my commander and the acting chief today, asking what the possibility of getting that full-time position filled, and they said, well, let's see what happens tonight at your council meeting, and if it gets approved, then they will work with me in getting that position filled.
And so how many positions remaining are you relying on in terms of an overtime position, hoping that overtime gets filled?
Most of the overtime positions are either behind people on that are injured on duty, and I think we have 7 or 8 right now. I've got a couple people coming back to work in the very near future, so those will go away. But the other overtime positions are more of the footbeat. Obviously, that's overtime because it's not an 8-hour shift. It's 2 6-hour shifts. I'm trying to think. Some of the summer enforcement team and things like that are also overtime.
And so we're confident that even though they're not full-time positions, that those footbeats will be always filled?
Yes. We have been filling them, and we haven't had any problems filling them. In fact, if you remember, Smitty and I went out and worked them a couple times.
Remember.
Yes. So
Yes.
we do fill them one way or the other.
And I think for clarification too, is what we're doing is we're creating a budget to hire permanent bodies. And when we don't have the permanent bodies, whether there's a vacancy that we can't fill because there's issues with the academy or that people are out on sick leave, then we use the overtime deputies to fill those positions. But those are full-time funded positions, and the goal is to have the full-time funded staff in those positions. We only use the overtime is to augment when there's a vacancy.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry to belabor the point, but I do think that, public safety is our number one thing, and we want to make sure that, just because we're being fiscally responsible doesn't mean we're cutting corners in order, and then not having the services that we need, given all of the different kinds of challenges we hear constantly discussed here in these chambers and, coming in our email and all of that. So if, what you need is full-time or something additional, now's the time to say it. I think there's a willingness to make sure that you have the resources you need to do whatever it is you need to do to address the problems we're talking about.
Yes, and the department is hiring as many as they can, and we're graduating an academy class a month pretty much right now. So as long as we keep moving forward with that, I think we'll be fine with getting our positions filled.
Very good. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I want to first start by thanking staff, and this goes back to what Councilmember Duran said earlier. This budget process is a lengthy process. That's part of the reason why we do a 2-year process or a 2-year budget, because it really takes almost a year to pull all of this together. And I want to thank the mayor as well. We were the budget subcommittee this year and had a chance to work maybe a little bit more closely with you as the budget was developed. I also want to thank you for bringing to us yet again a balanced budget. And I know that that's challenging because we all want to do more, and we want to make sure that we're responding to all of the community concerns. So there's always a desire to probably do more than we can afford. I just want to highlight some of the things in here that I think are really critical. The expanded transportation options, the expanding the pickup line, expanding the line to the Hollywood and Highland station, the continued commitment to capital improvements, the increased public safety resources that are in the budget, the expanded social services and additional staffing, and all of the additional staffing, social services, public safety, engineering, as we're talking about additional public improvements. I think all of that is great. Councilmember D'Amico suggested that we vote on the library opening on Sunday separately. I'm fine to do that. I know you're at work a lot during the day, so you probably don't have the flexibility of schedule. I am in the library quite often, and yes, there are homeless people there. Most of them pretty well behaved and occupied in various endeavors. And there are a few problem people. There are a few people who aren't homeless who I think are problem people in the library. But the vast majority of people I see there are in there working, they're studying, they're researching. The tables are occupied almost all the time with people in various studious endeavors. So I do think that there, and I have been asked by a number of people about expanding the hours. Also, the acquisition of the Coast Playhouse and making that available. So there's so much in here that benefits the community. I have a couple of questions and then maybe a comment. I know the mayor has some suggestions, and I've been keeping list of things, so I'm prepared to make a motion after we get all the comments. I wanted to ask either David or the city manager, I always look on the revenue side too, not just the expenditures. And in the parking meter revenue, I noticed that for 2014-15, we had about 5.7 million in revenue from parking meters. For the proposed 2016-2017 budget, you're recommending a budget of about $600,000 less. That just doesn't seem to make sense to me that our parking meter revenues are actually going to decline from 2 years ago, from the 14-15 budget. So I'm not suggesting that we always try to budget revenues conservatively, but it looks to me like there's a little wiggle room in here if we wanted to add the $10,000 for transgender artists capacity building, or if we wanted to add some other things in the budget.
So I can address that. John Leonard, I'm the city's revenue manager. We do not anticipate that parking meter revenues will decline this year. It is, as you said, that we budget our revenues conservatively. We saw parking meter revenues increase in the 2014-15 year. Typically, with revenues, we like to see a couple years of those consistent increases before we go up to the full amount. This year, we actually went up by about $400,000 in our budget amount, and so we would anticipate going up again in our budget amount if the parking meter, if those revenues continue to increase and stay at that higher level. But we do like to budget conservatively. We like to have that cushion in case something happens, if there's an economic downturn and we start to see decreasing revenues.
Okay.
Also, Council, just for just general information, we do in both years have a small surplus in the general fund. So the dollars that we have been talking about are well within that surplus.
Okay. And maybe we could just get this issue off the table. I think everyone seems to be supportive of making the improvements at Hart Park, contingent on us renegotiating the lease. So can we just give direction to the city manager to follow up on that and expedite that?
And as noted, we do have money budgeted to do some ADA work. We'll come back with a separate staff item that specifies what we're doing and what we're not doing and what we're recommending to delay until we have the extension with LA. Some of the improvements are going to be very doable. Some of them are going to be much more challenging and much more expensive. And I think we'll layer that out and come back at the next council meeting. We can discuss it then.
And can you also see if we can expedite the lease negotiation or renegotiation?
Yes.
Okay. And then one suggestion, I know that the issue of traffic mitigation was brought up by one of our speakers as well as Councilmember D'Amico, and we have this great innovations group, and they've primarily been focusing on tech issues, and we had talked about them maybe expanding beyond that. Maybe this is one of those areas we ask them to dedicate some of their time and their resources to, along with the study that's being done. And then my only other comment with respect to the budget, I do want to talk about some of the employee issues, but I can't remember the speaker. It may have been Stephanie or Kathy, because they always speak in a group. But talking about poverty and poverty reduction in particular, among our residents. And we've done some programs over the year, like the hunger initiative we did, but it seems like as part of our social services funding, we should be looking at poverty reduction among those who are able to work and thinking about innovative ways that we could address that, because we're a really wealthy city. But some of our residents are living in really poor conditions. People forget that probably about 15% of our residents are living below the poverty line. Many of them are seniors, a fair number of them are immigrants. And I think we need to be doing more to address, apart from the social service needs, the real financial needs. And we do that with a lot of our programs, but I'd like us to look at that in the upcoming year. And I do want to address the employee-related issues. I think it was Steve Martin who asked about unions, and yes, we do have a union. We renegotiated our contracts with our rank and file employees. That's WeHome. We approved that. That was a 5-year contract. We also have contracts with our managers, and they're part of a union, and part of what we're being asked to approve tonight is the contract with the Managers Association, and that's something that Council has negotiated over several months. And a lot of times that lags behind the rank and file employees because the managers get the benefit of some of the language changes that the rank and file employees get. So part of what we're doing is, I know, new to some people, but it's fairly routine for us to approve the contract that we all have negotiated. The reclassifications, again, I think this is something that for people who aren't familiar with it, it seems strange, but it is something that we pretty much do on an annual basis, that we want to make sure that our employees who are working for the city and serving the public are being paid for the work that they're doing, not being paid for a job that they might have taken 4 or 5 years ago, but we've asked them to work outside of it, or they have been expanding their duties because of additional workload. So those reclassifications, again, are pretty routine for us, but I appreciate the people who raise concerns, because that gives us an opportunity to explain what we're doing so that people do understand how this process works. So thank you for raising that.
Okay, I'll start with the small stuff first. We're not going to be doing Christmas in July this year, and that was budgeted $10,000. So I'm wondering if we can add $2,000 to World AIDS Day, so we at least have $2,500, because it's one of the only events that is only $500. And I think we could be doing a lot more on World AIDS Day, and the remainder to perhaps go to the arts, the transgender arts item that Councilmember D'Amico brought up. I do agree Hart Park needs to be dealt with sooner rather than later, and if it means renegotiating the lease earlier in order to have that commitment from the City of LA that we have that property, then I would be all for that. I am concerned about historic preservation. It's being, the perception is that it is not a priority for our city. So I am glad to hear that at least we will have 2 staff members who will be trained to be certified, and I would like to just look at this again within the next 6 months to see, first of all, to make sure that they've been certified, and where to go from there in terms of the consultant. I think we still have not had our historic preservation event, which was supposed to happen in May, and I think that was because the ball was dropped, and that is a staff issue and a priority issue, and I think that we need to fix that. I think in terms of the library, what I'd like to see is if we are going to keep the library open on Sunday, that we look at it as a cooling center. I know when we've talked about a cooling center, we generally just talk about Plummer Park, so I think we should be also advertising our library as a cooling center and perhaps have some more senior events there because the seniors are not all on the east side. We have plenty of people over 55 on this side of La Cienega. Regarding, let's see what else. Let me go to the MOU for the directors, what we talked about to see if we can lower that bottom range. I do think that if you have that bar set high on the lower range, you actually narrow the possibilities of people who might apply for a job, whether it's from within the organization or outside the organization. So I would like to see that lowered. Again, it ends up being the discretion of the city manager what that person gets paid based on experience. So I don't think it hurts the MOU to have that be more comparable to what other cities have, because we are a lot higher on that lower range. On one item that I cannot support is the $275,000 that is in the budget for the Metro Rail expansion. We've already spent over $400,000 on this, and we all know that this is very political as opposed to what we're doing on it, and we've gone, yes, from 45 to 41 in terms of the project list, but I would rather see that money go towards the traffic circulation ideas and increasing the City Line X services. So I just would like to note my opposition to spending that money. One thing I have learned by being on the West Side Cities COG is that it is very, very political. And let me see if there's anything else. I think that's it. Okay, that's it for me.
If you're going to make a motion, can I just say one thing before
Sure.
you do? And it's
I was
actually in some way to address your comment about the library. And I do think that, you know, our library is a really important public space, but I think having a plan for using our library for how our library is used is a little bit of leverage before we open it up for another day of use. So you know, perhaps all we need to do is let the subcommittee do their work and tell us how they can prepare for the work they're doing, and then for expanding to another day. You know, I have a lot of my sense about the most vulnerable people in our community, which are typically homeless people, is that we don't really have a proper set of places and a proper set of ways for the homeless to engage or to engage with the homeless. And I know we're working on that from the public safety side at a capital A astounding level, and I am incredibly appreciative of that on the human services side as well. But I just want us to really be thoughtful about this, because once we head off in a certain direction, it's difficult to turn around and come back. And so, perhaps what we find from that subcommittee about how the library is used is that we have to have some other space that is really about congregating, that's not about asking people to congregate quietly. And is really about being in the park, and maybe we have more shade structures or more heated structures so that people can congregate, but we're not asking people in the library to behave when all they really want to do is have a good time. So I know it's complicated, and it's, voting yes or voting no on opening a library, it's like, it's like not kissing the baby in front of you. But I'm trying to say that, I really want us to be thoughtful about this incredibly complicated problem of how our county, talking to county librarians, it's a county-wide problem. They haven't rushed to open their libraries on Sunday, and in many ways, that's the reason. And for many reasons, that's the way they've chosen to go. So, I'm very much in agreement with my colleagues that this is an important part of who we are as a community, but I'm also aware that because of how complicated it is, I'm not ready to take that step. But please make a motion.
Yeah, I was going to pull that out separately, and maybe this will address some of your concerns.
Question? Do we have to vote on, should we be voting on these 3 items separately?
Yeah,
So
that's perfectly fine.
I was going to make a motion with respect to the library hours only, and then try to follow up with other motions to address other issues. But one of the things I was going to suggest is that right now all we're doing is approving the budget. So if we were to include in the budget Sunday hours for the library, we wouldn't necessarily have to open the hours open the library on Sunday. We could direct staff to not implement this until they came back to us with a plan for using the library for cooling, additional senior programs, additional addressing of the homeless issues. So that may be a compromise that we can all live with.
If the council approves the budget tonight, it would take the county library system some time to staff up anyway. And we could use this as an opportunity to have a leveraged conversation with them that we do want to expand the basic services that are provided, not only Sundays, but all the time. And we could report back to council on that.
So I'll go ahead and move that we include the Sunday hours in the library in the budget, with the direction to the city manager that he come back to us after discussions with the county about the issues that we've discussed.
So we have a motion to adopt the budget.
No, this is just a motion on the library hours.
Just on the library,
Because
okay.
Councilmember D'Amico wanted to vote on that separately.
Okay. So we have a motion on the library, and
Thank you.
that motion passes.
Now I'll try a motion on the budget. So I would recommend that we approve all of the recommendations with respect to the budget. Add $10,000 for capacity building for transgender artists, direct staff to work on traffic mitigation, work with our innovations group, come back to us at mid-year if they want to request additional funding, shift the money from Christmas in July to World AIDS Day and to the capacity building for transgender artists, and for other arts programs. Ask staff to come back to us within 6 months with respect to historic preservation to see if we need to add additional staffing there. On the, we already dealt with the library opening, and
maybe include the traffic relief as an explicit work plan item.
Right. And that would be included in the traffic mitigation, traffic relief. That could be an explicit item. And I think that covers everything.
We were doing the staffing ones at the same time to LL and.
I can do that if you,
I thought we had to do them separately.
Well,
That's what Mike was shaking his head.
or they can do it in one. Your option, either way.
let's do it separately. This way we can approve the budget, we can come back and do the other items.
Can I ask a question? On the rail, can we make sure, though, that staff, before money actually gets spent, that it comes back to us?
Yes, we'll bring a separate staff report at the second meeting or the only meeting in July.
Okay.
Okay.
And a motion to adopt by Mayor Pro Tem Heilman, second by Councilmember Duran. Motion passes.
And I'll now make a motion to approve item 2MM, which was changed to 5A and 5B, and now we're talking about it under the budget. I'm going to move that we approve it with the recommendation that the mayor made with respect to lowering the bands for the directors.
Right.
And I think the city manager understands that.
Motion to adopt, Mayor Pro Tem Heilman, I've seconded.
Do then we want to come back with an item, or we're just going to? Okay.
Okay, motion passes, and now we have 2LL.
2LL, and I'll move that item.
Well, we're much faster than the city clerk.
Sorry.
Nope.
I want to get the right one.
Okay. Motion passes.
While they're here, I want to thank all of the staff who worked on the budget and sat here tonight. And for those of you lucky enough not to be called up here, good job. Finance, great job. And I also want to thank the community for raising issues and creating a serious dialogue on tonight's budget. And I thank the council subcommittee and council for supporting the budget recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Okay, I believe that we are now on 5A, new business. Is that right?
And if it's all right, I'd like to wait until July to make my appointments. I don't know if anyone else is aching to choose tonight. If so, you can go ahead, but I'd like to talk to some people.
I can make my appointment tonight, my direct appointment.
Great.
For the Russian Advisory Board, I'd like to appoint Anastasia Lebedeva.
Okay. I didn't even, you had a opening? I didn't know. You mean the at-large? Okay, yes, we can wait on that.
Okay.
Okay.
We're waiting on that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we're on excluded consent calendar, item 2PP. I think that Mayor Pro Tem Heilman had wanted to pull my item.
Yes, sorry, Mayor. I appreciate the sentiment of this, giving sort of free parking meter enforcement before 10 a.m. during the holiday week. I understand the sentiment of it. The thing about this that doesn't make sense is, as you know, a lot of West Hollywood residents go out of town. So we're really not benefiting a lot of residents. Secondly, we're not benefiting the businesses because many of the stores aren't even open that early. So I would prefer that we just ask staff to come back with some ideas for how we can appreciate our residents during the holiday time. Maybe they'll come up with some other creative things that may be more directly tied to benefiting residents. So I pulled this because I support the sentiment, but I don't support the specific recommendation.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just vote on it. So do you want to make a motion to support it?
I want to make this motion that I support both of what you are asking for, and because I think that's exactly the kind of thing we now know we can do. We have $600,000 of capacity in parking meter rates alone, and so I think something that is a nod to enjoying the holidays and having an extra long coffee in the morning on the day before one of the winter holidays is kind of a nice thing. So I think if that's acceptable, that would be the motion I would make, to consider that we would give free meter time, but maybe there are other things that we can do as well. I remember, and I'm certain some of my colleagues will, when there were poinsettias on the parking meters on Sunset Plaza at the holidays. Do you remember that? They were tied to the top, which, didn't mean that much, but it was kind of nice. So I will make that motion that we do what Councilmember Heilman and Mayor Meister said, which is come up with some way to celebrate the holiday period.
And show appreciation to our residents.
Right.
My concern, I was going to just say something. My concern is the lack of turnover on the meters. That in fact, what may happen is employees will just get there at 8 in the morning, take a spot, now they get a spot for 4 hours, and now we're depriving people of having the opportunity to have access to meters. So I'm just looking from a very practical turning over of meters rather than holiday sentiment.
It would actually only be 2 hours from 8 a.m. to 10
Well, it'd be from 8 to
a.m.
10 for free, but then if you wanted to pay for 10 to 12, you could get 4 hours, and then nobody else is using that meter for 4 hours.
I guess I was thinking about the resident that gets up a little later during that week and runs to the gym, and wouldn't it be nice if they didn't have to pay the meter for their 1 hour that they're at
It
the gym?
would be, but the reality is the employees are going to take the meters.
It'd be better if they ran to the gym.
Yeah, it would be better if they ran to the gym.
We'll put that as part of the motion, encourage running.
All right, so we'll just
free parking.
keep it general and say, let's have staff come back with a resident appreciation program. Motion passes. Free coffee for everyone. Okay. All right, at this time, we have public comment. Do we have any speakers? We don't? That's exciting. Okay, council member comments. I just have one comment, and that is on our agenda for the retreat to make sure that we have a discussion of a code of conduct. Okay, thank you.
When is the retreat again?
And where is the retreat?
We will be adjourning the meeting to that, so Yvonne.
Okay.
It is July 16th. I need the time. Where's Janet? July 16th at 10 a.m.
Is it 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock or 10
On
o'clock?
my calendar is 9 to noon.
Okay. So we will adjourn.
Okay, we'll adjourn.
July 16th.
July
9 a.m.
9 a.m. 15th or 16th? 16th. So that's the 16th, right? Okay, 9 a.m. And then our next regular meeting will be held on Monday, July 18th. Is that right? 6 p.m.? 6:30 p.m., right here, same bat channel.
As we adjourn, can we wish everyone a happy 4th of July?
Yes, we can. Okay. We are adjourned.